Hey, everybody. So glad to be here with all of you tonight. Should be yet another great late night conversation. I am looking forward to our interactions. So, yeah, let's do it.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. I am so glad to be here with all of you tonight for yet another one of our great late night conversations. So the way these streams tend to work is I give my opening remarks that are then followed by a roll call where I call you all out as I see you, names and locations. Then from there, I answer your super chat questions for the rest of the night. So if you've got something you would like me to talk about in the second half of our program, by all means, send me a Rumble rant if you're watching on Rumble, or a super chat if you are watching on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, I can't see you on Facebook, but you can see me otherwise. So we're going to have yet another great late night conversation. Just a few announcements to start out with. First things first is that every morning on the CPI YouTube channel, we have morning messages from members of our organization. We say, start your day with revolutionary hope and optimism, and in some cases, humor. They just watch the message that's going to go up for tomorrow. Don't want to reveal too much about it, but it was very humorous. The message that was up this morning from Gabby was about the Day of the Dead, the Mexican holiday. Really nice. We had a great message from Dan yesterday about Occupy LA and his memories of that, and that we really do want to have messages from different members to inspire people. So every morning we have morning messages from different members of the community, different members of the organization. So go subscribe to the CPI YouTube channel and tune in for the morning messages every morning. And if you like what we're doing on the CPI YouTube channel and you would like to contribute to it, we now have a method where you can make morning messages, submit morning messages. We now have that. So, it's a great way to make morning messages. You can submit them. So if you have a morning message, you have something you want to share with the community, please, by all means, make a morning message and we will look it over. And if we like it, which I'm sure we will, we haven't rejected a message yet. So, you have something you want to share with the community. We'll watch it and we'll probably put it on there for other members of the community to share. This is an interactive community. This is about holding each other up in these dark times. It's about being there for each other and offering hope and optimism in the face of so much pessimism and hopelessness and resentment and all the ugly things about the society we live in. We are builders. We are innovationists. We are optimists. We are anti-imperialists, and we believe in growth. We believe in going out and building and constructing and fighting for a whole new world. So we would love to plug you in and let you learn to start your day with revolutionary hope and optimism. So we have that option. If you want to submit a morning message, watch the morning messages. Now, the other big announcement that we've got coming up at the end of, not the end, coming up in a few days. I mean, it's 2 weeks, really. 2 weeks from now, we're having a great workshop that is taking place in the Chicago area. I'll be headed out to Chicago. And the name of the workshop is Working Families First, Build the Economy, Not the Empire. And it's going to be a great one-day, all-day workshop. And I am excited. A number of people have registered so far. We're following up with contacts and other things. And so if you can be there, at the workshop, go ahead and register. We are going to have a nice Airbnb where we'll be having the event all day. It'll be our Chicago members, our Midwest members, and other contacts and friends. And we would love to meet you, and we would love to have you there for some interactive discussions. We're going to get it catered and have some good food. We're gonna have music. It's going to be a great all-day workshop at the in the Chicago area. So we'd love to have you there to join us. It's going to be tremendous. It's going to be great. So I really hope that you can register and join us on October 12th in the Chicago area. It's going to be a very nice event. We work very, very hard to make our events fun and exciting. And this is going to be a smaller, intimate event just for new contacts and friends and local folks. But at the same time, we're excuse me, fall allergies. We are going to be building up to a very, very big event, our national convention, which is happening next summer. This is going to be a nice small workshop all day. So it's going to be really, really great. So I hope to see you there. Hope to see you there October 12th. It's going to be great. So on that note, as I said before, first the opening remarks, then from there the roll call where I call you all out as I see you, and then from there I answer your questions for the remainder of the night. So anything you got, hit me with your best shot, ask me a question, give me something to respond to. Super chats on YouTube, Rumble rants on Rumble. Let me respond to whatever you got on your mind. I am here to engage with you, and it is you guys that make the second half of the show what it is. It's really your questions. You get me going. You get me talking. It's really, really you guys who do it. So those of you who are watching live, I urge you to use your power responsibly. With great power comes great responsibility, as they said in the first Spider-Man movie. So use your power to make the conversation here go however you want. And I will do my best to answer your questions. So think about questions for the second half of the show. And now I'm going to jump into my opening remarks for tonight. Friends, tonight, I wanted to do something I think is very important. And it might not seem important, but I wanted to do this because there's a lot of people who don't understand what we're trying to do here, which I totally don't blame them for. How would you understand this, right? We have lived in a time where we don't have revolutionary organizations. We don't have a big anti-imperialist movement. So how would you understand what we're trying to do, right? There's no basis for it. There's no understanding of what it is that CPI is trying to do. The Center for Political Innovation, which is our organization, we are an anti-imperialist organization. We have a 4-point plan to improve the economy. We want a government of action that fights for working families. We're opposed to the system of global monopoly capitalism, imperialism that is impoverishing people all over the world, grinding countries into poverty. We are fighting for the working class, fighting for working families, opposed to war and empire, opposed to the big monopolies, opposed to a system where profits come before people. And we are patriots. We love our homeland. We love our country, and we want a better country, a country free from the rule of the big banks and corporations. So because we are patriots and because we love our country and because we are opposed to this system that is leading us toward World War III and the danger of a low-wage police state, because of that, we are trying to build an organization that can help advance such goals. And it's not an easy thing to do. But a lot of people just don't understand what we're doing. And tonight, I thought I would take the opportunity to show you what we're doing. And, I have to preface this with I'll just throw this out there. Before I moved to New York City, I was not a boastful person. I thought that bragging about your own achievements, bragging about your own accomplishments was a very unattractive thing. I thought that it was best that if you made a mistake, you should be the one to admit it and humble yourself and show that you are capable of admitting you made a mistake. But I learned when I came to New York City that we live in a very, very short, what do they call that? Short time span, or short short attention span culture. And because of that, if you want people to know what you have accomplished, you have to tell them. And if you want people to understand what you're trying to achieve and why what you're doing is important, you have to be the one to tell people what they're doing, what it is you're doing. You have to tell people. Nobody else is going to. And that this kind of oh, I don't want to be arrogant, I don't want to be boastful. That, I mean, unfortunately, that's not the way our very fast-paced culture is. People, if they're looking at different things, they want to know who you are, and they want to know what you're accomplishing, right? And that, you know, if you want to get a good job, if you want to meet people, you know, you have to be, you know, your best salesman, right? You have to be telling people what you're capable of. You have to show that you have confidence, and you have to be proud of what you've achieved. You have to be able to rattle off your accomplishments. This is the nature of the culture that we live in. And maybe it's not the most moral way to be. And maybe we should be more humble, and maybe we should be, you know, but unfortunately, the culture we live in requires that if you want people to understand what you are doing, and if you want people to know what you have accomplished, you have to tell them. And that's not pretty, and that's maybe not the way it's supposed to be. And perhaps that doesn't mean that, you know, I mean, maybe that's not the kind of person you would look for in an intimate relationship, or a deep friendship. Maybe you'd want somebody who's a little bit different. But if you are going to be presenting yourself to a large number of people, you know, if you're going to be presenting yourself to a large number of people, you need to be able to show them what you've done and why you're worth talking to. So tonight, I am going to go over, I made a list of everything that CPI has accomplished so far this year in 2024. And, you know, it's a pretty decent list. We're not a big organization. We have less than 160 members, between 150 and 160 members at this time. At this point, we're not collecting dues because we're changing our incorporation status. But in terms of people that are listed as members and are invited to the weekly membership calls, we have between 150 and 160. It wavers, 155, 157, 153. It goes up and down. But we're not a huge group, right? We're not a mass organization with a huge amount of members. We are a group of committed anti-imperialists. And I always emphasize that we're not a political party, right? We're not a communist party or a communist faction. We are a group of anti-imperialist organizers, and we engage in socialist education. That is what we engage in. Socialist education. The Center for Political Innovation is a socialist education project. And, you know, we promote anti-imperialism. We promote innovation and celebration of human growth and creativity. We are neither left nor right. We have broken with the left-right dichotomy. We have people in our organization that are for gay marriage. We have people in our organization who are against gay marriage. We have people in our organization that are for abortion. We have people in our organization who are against abortion. And we have a variety of people. As long as you agree with our 4-point plan, as long as you're against the global system of monopoly capitalism, and you're willing to help us, you know, promote anti-imperialism and build our movement, you're welcome to be part of our group. And that's why we've attracted some of the best people, because we've attracted people who, you know, they just didn't fit in with the standard woke leftist thing, but maybe they didn't fit in with the right wing and their belief in free market capitalism, or their extreme, you know, anti-communist, you know, and pro-war stuff, right? So we attract a unique brand of people. And the main thing is that we're excited about this new economy that is rising around the world, centered around Russia and China and Iran and Venezuela and countries like that. There's a whole new world rising. And America is not going to be part of that new world. Maybe there's things about it we'd like to influence or change, but if we just barricade all these countries with sanctions, if we just pile weapons around the world and prolong wars, and we're not going to be able to benefit from the rise of economic growth happening in these countries. And we're also not going to be able to influence them. We're just going to continue to deteriorate. And right now, the Western capitalist countries are dominated by big monopolies and corporations. And these ultra-rich forces, the big oil bankers, the Silicon Valley tech monopolies, they think the way to save their system is with degrowth, by driving down our living standards, reducing the population, making all of us poorer and poorer and poorer, and setting up an authoritarian police state while they prepare us for all-out war around the world against any country that is broken out of their system. And we must reject that. We reject the sinister high-tech dark ages that the ultra-rich are rolling out. And instead, we celebrate human creativity and that American spirit of go out and build and construct and optimism and growth. We are innovationists. We believe in technology and human beings' ability to reinvent their relationship with nature and solve problems and expand their life expectancy, expand their population, make life more comfortable and free and beautiful. And we're excited about African countries rising up from poverty. We're excited about what China has accomplished, lifting up 200 million people, 800 million people from poverty, how the Soviet Union was the first country in outer space and industrialized. And we're very excited about a lot of the great projects going on, what Bukele is doing in El Salvador, how he's working with China to build up the El Salvadoran economy, the micro entrepreneurship program they have in Nicaragua. We're excited about the Islamic Republic of Iran and what they have done to empower different people and different communities and stand with the Palestinians. And we are excited about people around the world opposing imperialism. And ultimately, we need to find a way to oppose imperialism right here. We need to build a movement of Americans to stand against Wall Street and the billionaire bankers that run this country and fight for a whole new America with a government of action that fights for working families, a government that'll break the power of the big monopolies and stand up for you and me and our communities and our neighborhoods against the power of people like Jeff Bezos and people like Goldman Sachs and people like ExxonMobil, BP, Shell, and Chevron, Mark Zuckerberg. You name it, right? We are very, very much advocates of popular power. And we don't think populism is a bad word. We don't think empowering people is a bad thing, but we are motivated by patriotism, by love of our country, love of our communities, but opposition to the really crooked financial elite that is running it and trying to set up this sinister dystopian scheme as they prepare us for an all-out war. We are optimistic. We are patriotic. We are anti-imperialist. We are builders and constructors. We are innovationists. And we advocate a whole new America where the people come first, not the profits of a wealthy few. And human creativity is unleashed to new bounds, hopefully getting us to a whole new world where so much wealth and abundance has been created that the very need for a state could break down. That we could have a society where people just take what they need and do what they feel like doing, from each according to his own ability, to each according to his needs, right? A society of vast technological advancement and abundance. And the problems that we're living in now are rooted in the irrationality of a system where profit guides production. Because in our system, people become homeless because there are too many houses, not because there aren't enough. People become hungry because there is too much food, not because there's too little food. And abundance creates poverty. And that lays out and shows the necessity for the banks and the factories and the industries and the centers of economic power to be rationally organized so that human growth and creativity can expand. And we need to reject the left-right dichotomy. We are not advocates of the woke left that believes in degrowth, that wants to drive down living standards, that wants vengeance against people who might be in some way privileged. Oh, you got 10% more than me. Oh, you got 5% more than me. Oh, I'm going to beat you down. That incites people against each other in an oppression Olympics victimhood complex. We're not excited about that. We're really not, right? And the atmosphere in leftist spaces is absolutely toxic. Everyone is calling out everyone with tearing other people down. There's an obsession with just degrading people, and the left is intolerable. But a lot of the right is also intolerable, right? On the right, they believe in free market capitalism, and they believe, oh, you let the government out of the way, everything will be fine, right? They tend to repeat the propaganda to support what Israel's doing to the Palestinians, the crimes being committed, the murderous terrorist attacks Israel just created in Lebanon. They tend to want to overthrow governments around the world just because the leader adopts an economic system that they don't like, whether it's socialism or whatever. And that, you know, the right wing, while they uphold things like family and religion and tradition, they also embrace free market capitalism, which destroys all of those things. And in addition to that, they tend to, in a lot of cases, go along with imperialism. And that the genuine, optimistic anti-imperialist movement is neither left nor right. It is for the people, it is pro-growth, it is anti-imperialist, it's anti-police state repression, it's in favor of building a mass popular movement to fight in the interests of working people. That's where we're at. And that used to be maybe 50, 60 years ago, that's what it meant to be left. But the left always had problems. That's something we can talk about on other streams. The left always had problems. But in the last 50, 60 years, the left has become intolerable. And the right has, you know, been pretty intolerable for a long time. But now a lot of people on the right are waking up. And there's a lot more anti-war sentiment on the right. There was just a great rally in Washington, D.C. Today called Restore the Republic, where Jimmy Dore spoke up for the Palestinians, gave some very, very powerful remarks, which I'll probably show on here later. So there's a lot that we can talk about. But tonight, I just want to show you what it is that we actually do as the Center for Political Innovation. Because people, when I say that I'm on here and I want to recruit you to an organization, I want to build a movement, people are like, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to show you what it means. I'm going to start back in January, and I'm going to lead you through the months, and I'm going to show you what we have done, what we have accomplished in the year of 2024. The first thing we did this year was on January 7th, we had a national day of action for Yemen to stand in solidarity with the Yemeni people. The U.S. government started bombing Yemen, to oppose the Houthis. So we had a national day, of solidarity with Yemen. So I'm going to put the video of our national day. We had rallies in a few different cities to support the Yemeni people.
Americans failed with all their capabilities at the beginning of the aggression against Yemen, and today they will fail even more and faster. Marches are taking place worldwide.
A sea of demonstrators, you can see for yourself, with many carrying Palestinian flags. A representative of the Houthi movement addressed the crowd, saying that its forces were ready to fight against both Israel and the US.
We will support our brothers in Palestine. We tell them they are not alone. God is supporting him, and we are with him too.
Today is part of an international mobilization in support of the Houthis.
We're here at this rally to support the Yemeni people. The people of Yemen are the heroes of the entire world for what they are doing right now.
And we're out here, we got a leaflet, we got signs.
We realize the aggression on Gaza and all these crimes are a joint American-British-Israeli action. Whoever stands with them bears responsibility for what happens in Gaza.
20,000 plus people killed in Gaza as Israel unleashes its horrendous crimes.
But the Houthis in Yemen, the poorest country on the planet, they're actually doing something about it. They're turning the ships around. They're saying, no ships to Israel until the bombing stops. No ships until there's no more bombing.
Enforcing a naval blockade against Israel in solidarity with the people of Gaza.
Yemen, make us proud. Turn another ship around.
This is a picket line in the Red Sea. Do not cross. They are standing against Israeli atrocities. They are stopping those scab ships that are cooperating with Israel. And this is a heroic act of solidarity.
Thanks to heroes in Red Sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks to heroes in Red Sea, Palestine will be free.
And if you think about that, I see America in Ansar Allah. This is a group of people that call themselves supporters of God, that believe in economic development.
Because They're doing the same thing that the people in the American Revolution did. They're standing up against an international colonial system.
And I really want everyone watching now to think about what it means to be an American. What does it mean to be somebody here in the United States of America? Because this is a country that was founded by people from all different corners of the world, endured all kinds of hardship, people from all over the planet who come to the United States of America because they believe that they can get a better life for their family, because they can survive horrendous conditions. Many of them motivated by belief in God and belief that there is a higher purpose and they can build a better life. I have actually here these buttons with the symbol, the official symbol of Ansar Allah on them. And as you can see, you know, one of the things that's very prominently featured on their symbol is a gun. Because part of the Ansar Allah religion, part of the teachings of Zaydi Shia Islam is that every man must have a gun to protect his household. They believe in the right to bear arms. What could be more American than that? In addition, they have a shaft of wheat. There's a shaft of wheat that is perpendicular to the gun. That stands for economic development, meaning that they don't believe in this degrowth environmentalism that's being pushed by the fake left. They believe that they can make a better life for their children, make a better life. They want to use Yemen's oil resources to build up their economy and raise their people up from poverty.
No war with Yemen! No war with Yemen! No war with Yemen!
People in one of the poorest countries in the world, in the mountains of northern Yemen, the Ansar Allah movement, the followers of Hussein al-Houthi, the poorest people in the world are standing up and fighting back. They have picked up a gun and they are fighting for their people.
The Yemeni people will not tolerate any American intervention or guardianship. We are ready for confrontation.
The aggression against Yemen has been US-led from the beginning. We are prepared for everything. We realize that if we do not make a sacrifice now, we will later when we are oppressed and defeated.
You know, the Bible says that the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. And if you think about it, if you think about what's happening in the world now, Yemen, one of the poorest countries in the world, is making itself heard all over the planet.
The Houthis are heroes. If the American people knew what they were doing, right, they would be supporting it.
You know, Mao Zedong, the founder of the Chinese Revolution, he said, the people of a small country can surely defeat aggression by a big country, but only if they dare to rise and struggle, only if they dare to take up arms and grasp into their own hands the destiny of their country. And the people of Yemen have done that.
If the American forces present in the Red Sea commit foolish acts against the Yemeni people, whether against the Navy, against Yemen in general, or against Yemen's interest, the Yemeni people will not stand idly by, and the armed forces will not stand idly either. American naval units will become targets, along with those who support and back them.
What we're looking at today is another miracle in the Red Sea. Pharaoh didn't learn his lesson the last time, and if Pharaoh Biden sends American troops to try to fight in the Red Sea, he's going to meet the same fate as the hero in the Old Testament did.
If you truly love America, if you truly love everything this country was meant to stand for, when it emerged as a revolution against the British Empire, you should love the Houthis right now. You should love the people of Yemen and admire them. They are standing against the Atlanticist system, this global system of free trade. They are stopping that free trade. They are stopping the ships. They are standing for economic development. They are shutting it down. They are the heroes of the people of the world. They stand for economic development. They stand for the rights of people, the rights of justice and truth against the system that puts profit and monopoly, big banks and corporations over human lives. We admire the Houthis. The Houthis are the hero of the whole world. We stand with you. From Bronx to Chicago to Portland to every corner of this country, there are Americans that hear your call and stand with you. Shut it down. Solidarity with Ansar Allah, solidarity with Yemen, solidarity with Gaza, free Palestine, down with U.S. imperialism.
The poorest nation on the planet is doing more than all the richest nations put together to defend decency and oppose genocide. They're doing what America should be doing, and we at the Center for Political Innovation support them.
And then we crossed that bridge into China, saw a great banner up ahead. Its meaning set my heart a pounding, and this is what that banner is. Long live the great unity peoples of the world. Long live the great unity of the peoples of the world. Long live the great unity of the peoples of the world. Long live the great unity of the peoples of the world.
The government of Sana'a, because it makes its own decisions, isn't hostage to the American colonial project and has witnessed the atrocities of the American Zionist colonial project. The world, if it continues to watch the heinous crimes in Gaza and Palestine, will pay a high price in the future. Because this is the message of the new colonial project. Whoever stands against it will face a fate similar to that of the people of Gaza. China, Russia, and India and other countries won't accept American, British, Israeli dominance.
The Houthis are heroes. Houthis are heroes. Houthis are heroes. Houthis are heroes.
Yeah. So that was the first thing that we did in the year of 2024 is we had a national day of action to support Yemen, and our members went into the streets in Portland, in Humboldt County, California, in Chicago, and in New York. And we were in the streets supporting the Houthis. So then the next thing that we did, January 26th, at the end of January, we published a book supporting the Houthis. Who are the Houthis and what are they fighting for? And we published this book, and this book has gotten widely circulated. It's gotten many, many sales around the world. At least 400 copies of it have been distributed. And it still continues to sell. People continue to buy it. It's very short, and we have recently made it into an audiobook on this YouTube channel. It is now available as an audiobook. So we have this book that is available. The audiobook is also available. And that was the next thing. At the end of January, we published this book, Who Are the Houthis and What Are They Fighting For? You can get it on Amazon, and hundreds of copies have sold. The audiobook is out as well. Now, the next thing that we did, was we were planning to attend the World Youth Festival, right? I was invited to become the organizer and the chair of the U.S. delegation to the World Youth Festival, the World Festival of Youth and Students in Russia, which is a huge gathering. The World Youth Festival is a huge gathering. There were 20,000 young people there from around the world, from many different countries who were represented. And so we made a point of preparing the U.S. delegation to the festival. Now, one of the things that we did is we wanted to distribute books at the festival. So we published two very short, kind of pamphlet-sized books. The first one, because the festival was in Russia, and it was, I'm sorry. The first pamphlet that we published, because the festival was in Russia, we published a pamphlet directed at the young people of Russia, at the people at the festival who were from Russia. And we published, it's called Russia Is Not Our Enemy. And we printed, hundreds of copies of it to distribute at the World Youth Festival. This is the cover of it, and it has a number of different articles and showing what we have done in America to support Russia in Ukraine. And so we published this book and we distributed it at the World Youth Festival. We also published, because we knew that one of the countries that would be at the World Youth Festival is North Korea. North Korea, is a country that, has been, pretty well locked out of the global economy by the United States. It's illegal now to travel to North Korea. But we published this book, Journey of Hope, Building a Movement for Peaceful Reunification of the Korean Peninsula in America. And we got not just our own members, but we got a minister from New York City. He wrote an essay from a Korean church. We got a Korean American poker champion who's an anti-imperialist activist named Douglas Kim. He also wrote an essay for the book. We published some of our own material. Some of our own members wrote for the book. And we published this short book to distribute at the festival to show that we sought to build a movement in America for the peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. And so we published this book as well. And so we printed those two books in order to have something to distribute at the World Youth Festival. So that was the next thing that we did. Now, February 12th was the day we published these two books. And then February 15th, we did something amazing, something that I'm really proud that we were able to do. We had a press conference at the United Nations. The Russian government gave us a platform because Russia was sponsoring the World Youth Festival, and because Russia is a UN member state and a member of the Security Council at the United Nations. And we were concerned about being persecuted, especially in light of the Uhuru case. And so we convened a press conference at the United Nations. And I was there representing CPI, along with Noah, our member from Boston, and two other members of the organization. Two other organizations, were also present at the press conference. And I'm going to show you a little bit of the video. It was a long press conference, but we spoke with a platform before the entire world at an official UN event where we spoke about the Uhuru case, where the Uhuru 3 were being prosecuted for allegedly being Russian agents because they went to a conference in Russia, and we spoke about a number of very, very important issues at what was an official UN press conference, which I think was a very, very important thing that we did, a very important moment, right? Russia is being attacked and demonized by the U.S. media and by the U.S. Government. The USA is piling all kinds of weapons and prolonging this ugly war in Ukraine. Well, we thought that it was our duty to not just go to Russia to the World Youth Festival, but have a press conference and tell the world why we were going to the festival and why we were concerned about being legally persecuted for going to the festival. What was our fear? Why is it? And show what they were doing to Chairman O'Malley and the Uhuru 3. And so we made a point of highlighting the Uhuru case at the UN press conference. So first, I guess I'll start off. I'll show you the video of this. Was February 15th, second month. We had an official UN press conference, and I will show you. The UN press conference video. This was what we did in February. Our members convened an official United Nations press conference.
Thank you very much for joining the press conference, where we would like to tell you about an extraordinary event that is called World Youth Festival 2024 that will take place in 2 weeks in the beautiful city of Sochi in Russia. And this festival will embrace 20,000 students from all over the world and Russia as well. So they are young leaders of business, of charity, of other like art, other public ways of life. And so these young talented people will just participate just take part in exciting workshops, discussions, and so they will be ready to share their ideas. And the main goal for us is just to create a platform where these young people just ready implement their ideas for the brighter future. And so today we have actually 4 American speakers, so the 3 here and 1 is here. So it's just lucky people that are going to visit Sochi and to represent.
Okay, so we'll skip ahead and then you'll see what we had to say.
In October, also represent the Center for Political Innovation.
Welcome, everybody. My name's Caleb Maupin. I'm the founder of the Center for Political Innovation. And in October, I was deeply honored when the youth office of the Russian Foreign Ministry reached out to me about forming a national preparatory committee for the upcoming World Youth Festival, set for March in Russia. As someone who attended the World Festival of Youth and Students in 2013 in Quito, Ecuador, someone who attended the festival that was held in Sochi in 2017, as an advocate of socialism, peace, and international cooperation, as an American patriot, as a Christian, and someone who strives to live according to the teachings of Jesus Christ, I considered this to be a great opportunity. However, it is the circumstances of our upcoming trip that bring us here today. As we meet here today, Jesse Neville, Penny Hess, and Omali Yeshitela have been indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice. They are facing a possible 15 years in prison. Their trial date was just set for September. The Biden administration has charged them for doing what we are about to do, for going to an international conference in Russia. The Biden administration has declared that they're putting on some Zoom calls, writing some articles about Ukraine, that has been conspiracy to act as a foreign agent. And this case is absolutely outrageous. It's an attack on freedom of assembly, freedom to travel, freedom of speech, and freedom of association. And it's designed to intimidate Americans from doing what we plan to do: visit Russia and question U.S. foreign policy. In light of this horrific indictment, it is very important that we go to Russia to show that we will not be intimidated and to take responsibility for the future amid the utter failure of the Biden administration. Biden said he would end the war in Yemen, and as we all know, now that war is expanding and U.S. bombs are being dropped on Yemen. Biden has poured billions of dollars of American taxpayer money into Ukraine to prolong this war, at the same time that our bridges and highways are crumbling and our living standards are dropping and American working families are being squeezed by inflation. Under these circumstances, with Biden trying to intimidate Americans and weaponizing the Department of Justice against dissidents, and with international tensions rising, we have a duty to go to Russia and show the world another America. Because there are two Americas. Beyond Wall Street and Hollywood, in the vast territories of the American heartland, you will find a lot of hardworking people who love their children, love their communities, and want a better life. You will find an America that values peace, not war. It is this America that produced Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Black Panthers, the great abolitionist John Brown, and it's this America that produced the labor movement that pushed forward Roosevelt, the great anti-fascist coalition that propelled the United States to align with the Soviet Union to defeat the menace of fascism in a great moment in history, also to align with China. It is this America, the America that's been hidden from mainstream TV, the America that has been canceled by the social media monopolies. It's this America of the working class, of small business owners and people of many different races and ethnic backgrounds who reject war and the emerging low-wage police state. It is this America and its democratic traditions that I will be proudly representing in Sochi. There's a new economy arising in the world today centered around the BRICS, the Eurasian Economic Union, the Belt and Road Initiative of China, and the real America would benefit from joining with this new economy, trading with countries on the basis of win-win cooperation, and ending the wars, the threats, and the sanctions. The Center for Political Innovation sees Russia as an ally of the real America, and we call for the charges against the Uhuru 3 to be immediately dropped. And we look forward to making lots of new friends at the upcoming World Youth Festival. Not just youth from Russia, but youth from the 188 different countries that will be represented at this vitally important international gathering. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we would like...
Yeah, so that was our UN press conference. We had an official press conference at the United Nations. And that press conference, we focused on the Uhuru case, the case of the Uhuru 3. And, you know, that case is very, very important. And they just, you know, their trial just wrapped up where they had a mixed verdict. But I'm going to show the video that we made about the Uhuru case, just so you know what that case was about, because Tucker Carlson spoke up on behalf of the Uhuru 3. Many people spoke out. It was a really outrageous case. And so I'm gonna put the details of that case on the screen. I'm gonna show the video we made, kind of explaining the details of the prosecution of the Uhuru 3 and what's going on there. So hold on, we'll just show that. So you know about the case we were highlighting at the UN that made us nervous to go to Russia, why we had to do our UN press conference.
After the rioting was done, U.S. media kind of forgot about those communities. Well, Uhuru, they went out there because they saw black and brown people like themselves that were out there protesting and rioting, and they stayed there. And they've been there since 2014, providing services in the community, giving these young people in the community something constructive to do, not just go out and break shit to raise awareness about the conditions they're in, but ways to actually feed people and serve the community. And they've been there in St. Louis since 2014 doing constructive work. They have really escalated these programs. They have a farmer's market. They provide classes and services to pregnant mothers, and in particular in St. Louis, Missouri, and in St. Petersburg, Florida. They're trying to undo the damage that the U.S. Department of Justice and the state police and the local police and all the forces have been doing in communities like Ferguson, Missouri. And at the same time that they've done this community work, the African People's Socialist Party has also taken a firm anti-imperialist stance. They support China. They support Russia. They support Cuba. They support Iran. And when the United States started piling weapons into Kiev, they defended Russia's right to intervene.
This defensive war in Ukraine that Russia is actually waging against world colonial powers, not Ukraine as a single entity, but the U.S. and all colonial powers who have an interest in colonially dominating African people right here in this country and around the world and extracting resources from the majority of peoples on the planet. That system, this current system, is in severe crisis, and they cannot rule in the same old way.
Because of that, their homes were raided. Then months later, the federal government came out with an indictment, and it's charging them with being Russian agents. And it's trying to allege that the election campaign that they ran in St. Petersburg, Florida, was somehow interference in the U.S. electoral process.
4 activists associated with the People's Democratic Uhuru movement and the African People's Socialist Party have been indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice. The indictment from the U.S. Department of Justice accuses them of spreading Russian propaganda and cites simply some web conferences that they had, some Zoom meetings, some emails they sent out, as well as the fact that they have run routine election campaigns. Is this of concern to the Secretary General as an attack on human rights, freedom of assembly, etc.?
I frankly was not aware of the case before you mentioned it. Let me look into it and I will get back to you.
What's going on in Africa is directly connected to what's going on here. What's going on in Ukraine is connected to what's going on in Harlem. You know what I'm saying? It's an international global economy that's all connected.
Because they go to conferences in Russia, this constitutes Russian meddling in the elections. The whole thing is ridiculous. It's completely, utterly ridiculous. They've been running these campaigns for years, since before I was born. Back in the 1970s, they were running people for office. Their platform of reparations, I mean, Marianne Williamson, she's a major Democrat candidate. She also says she believes in reparations. I mean, it's not a unique message that they have in that sense, but they have been targeted because they're doing what you're supposed to do. I mean, you know, at all of our meetings, we have a picture of Fred Hampton up on the stage because Fred Hampton, he built a free breakfast program. He organized what he called a rainbow coalition, uniting low-income people, white, black, brown, Arab, Latino, into one organization, you know, trying to build up community empowerment, trying to do community service projects while teaching Marxism and socialism. You know, we look at Fred Hampton as a great example of the American revolutionary tradition. And, you know, the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, you know, they don't like that we wave the American flag. They don't like that we consider ourselves patriotic. They have their own kind of unique analysis. They talk about what they call the colonial mode of production. That's not traditional Marxist thinking. And we don't agree with them on a number of issues. But it doesn't matter. We support them.
We all have to stand up and oppose the ideology of division and support an ideology of unity based upon our material interests, you know what I'm saying, to work together.
People who can't understand that, people who can't get past, you know, this or that, like, got to put aside our differences and say that if they come for them, they come for all of us. If they go after them, they got to deal with all of us. That needs to be the attitude among anti-imperialists.
Yeah, so, you know, with our concerns about the Uhuru case, we had the press conference at the United Nations, and then we went to the World Youth Festival, which was, I mean, this is the 3rd World Youth Festival I've been to, but it's always a life-changing, amazing experience going to the World Youth Festival. And I'm going to show you, I cannot have time to show you the whole video of everything we did while we were there. I'm going to show you some of the World Youth Festival. Because so much was accomplished at the World Youth Festival.
Yes, a historic work, historic struggle.
And I'm so excited. The opening ceremony is going to be tremendous, I'm sure, and the amount of meetings and workshops, it's going to be a great week. I'm very optimistic.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So how's it going, Noah?
Doing good, Caleb. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm really excited. As you can see, there's a lot of people hanging out, getting ready for the festival. I think we're waiting for a bus. We're waiting for a few of our comrades to get done.
Счастье! 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 Счастье!
Ну что, вы готовы зажигать? До нас и после нас, возможно, это и есть жизнь. Мир меняется.
Зачем я здесь? Кто я?
So we're here at the festival. This is the
all right. So the week was really, really great. You know, we got to have meetings with different young people from the Donbass regions, from China, from Vietnam. You know, I mean, it was really a tremendous week. You know, we got to walk around the festival. I mean, it was just absolutely beautiful. You know, absolutely beautiful. You can see some of the footage. Those are where we met with communists from Nepal. You know, a communist group from Nepal and kind of their revolutionary organization, leaders of the Ho Chi Minh Communist Youth Union of Vietnam. That was amazing. You know, one of our members spoke on a panel along with the Kim Il-sung youth of North Korea. You know, and then the last day, Noah and myself, we were just exhausted, but we were invited to an event with the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. So I'll show you that part.
When you're just so socially drained, but we're just sitting here kind of watching the crowds go by, getting ready for the big meeting this evening. Well, we're all set here. Got my translation earpiece. Starting any minute now. He'll be here.
hope I get a chance to ask him my question. There's Noah over there.
My name is Caleb Maupin. I'm the leader of the United States delegation. I'm representing the Center for Political Innovation. And I would like to just thank you from the bottom of my heart for that dynamic interview you gave to Tucker Carlson, in which you showed many, many young Americans a different kind of leadership, because our politicians and our leaders in the United States, they speak in sound bites, they speak in terms of scandal and gossip, but you presented a long-term vision, a scientific view of statecraft, and by getting through to young Americans, you made a difference. Many people who would never have listened to anything you had to say or heard another perspective heard you because of that interview. Now, getting to my question, things between our two countries are not good at this point. You know, before we left, we had to have a press conference at the United Nations. We are concerned about being prosecuted. There are 3 Americans that have already been charged and are facing prosecution, possibly 15 years in prison, simply because they attended a conference like this in Russia, the Uhuru movement they're called. And we are concerned because I know that I speak for the majority of the American people when I say that we do not want our tax money dumped into this conflict in Ukraine any longer. We do not want our country to continue to deteriorate internally while our leaders waste money on prolonging this war. I'm frightened by what the Biden administration is doing, not just in Ukraine, but also on Taiwan and on the Korean Peninsula. And I really do see gatherings like this as a potential road to peace. And what I have seen at this festival has blown my mind. The amount of young volunteers that you have here, people who have stepped up, who love their country and want to just come forward and put together dynamic events like this. What kind of role can events like this and young diplomacy activities like this play in helping set the stage for maybe changing the dangerous direction our leaders in the United States are taking things against the majority of the wishes of the majority of the people of our country? Thank you.
The United States of America is a huge and unique country in its own way. Over 300 years, in just 300 years, which is a small period of time compared to our history, but thanks to the talents of the Americans, it became a superpower, which is an obvious fact. We know outstanding American politicians, we know outstanding American business people, cultural activists, which is an obvious fact. We used to be allies during 2 world wars as we fought Nazism and fascism. What happened recently? After the war, after the alliance, the United States and the Soviet Union started dividing the world, and they did so successfully. And based on this balance of powers, they created international relations and created the modern system of international law. Then the Soviet Union ceased to exist for a number of reasons. I will not go into detail, but they were mainly internal reasons. There is one superpower remaining, represented by your country. The way your elites use this monopoly to global domination is dubious. In my opinion, the United States failed to bear this burden of responsibility that they happen to bear. They created monopoly, strengthened it. I don't mean the American people, I mean the ruling elites. While strengthening their monopoly, they soon faced a situation where the overwhelming majority of countries disliked it. And so, step by step, it became obvious to everyone that there is resistance to the forming global order. Many, including your allies, They are keeping their silence here. They are afraid of speaking up because they're dependent on major economies, on mass media. There are a lot of dependencies, but believe me, I know what I'm talking about. Even allies dislike it too. And so they faced failures and disturbances. The ruling elites of the United States, after achieving the monopoly of power, decided that the previous system of international relations that was built on the outcomes of World War II is no longer satisfying for them because the balance of power evolved, and hence they decided to change the international legal order. And when it became clear that not everyone is okay with this, by this I mean Iraqi developments, they happened without UN Security Council sanctions. The same applies to Syria, Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, without going into detail about root causes. There were no decisions or resolutions of UN Security Council. The United States did let this genie get out of the bottle. If they did so, why can't other countries protect their national interests in the same way? As for Yugoslavia, my counterpart told me on multiple occasions, yes, we did so without UN Security Council resolution, but there was a waging 8-year war, bloodshed, something must be done. When Russia, however, decided to protect their people in the Donbass, which faced a war with elderly, with children being killed, why cannot Russia do the same while protecting their own people, not some thousands of kilometers away from their national borders, instead on the border of their own country, and people were waiting for us to help without going into detail. My point is to understand that the world cannot be controlled from one pole, and which is detrimental to that pole itself as it undermines the foundation. And in the interview given to your compatriot, Mr. Carlson, I said that dollar is being undermined as they forbid to use dollar for settlements. They seek quick results. Instead of gaining one, they only undermine their national currency. They attain an opposite result, and this is true for many areas. In my opinion, this is a wrong policy. But the youth, returning to your question, can do many things without interfering in domestic processes, without describing or giving descriptions of the behavior of presidential candidates. It is just a part of the national culture, but youth can contribute in building state-to-state relations. What would be the procedure? They can just speak up domestically, within law, within their constitution. It is the only way, the only option. In no way do we call upon any activities of disobedience, but it is a possibility to speak up in their own country. And I think this is a way to go. In my opinion, this is going to pave the way for non-state forms of contact in order to create conditions for improving relations on state-to-state level too. Thank you very much for your question.
I'm representing the United States on behalf of the Center for Political Innovation. And Mr. President, I'd like to echo my partner's sentiments in saying thank you so very much for allowing us to come here. But I'd also like to say that it is a little bittersweet for me to be here because, for example, during the opening ceremony, there was a moment where we were all joining hands. And there was a woman in front of me, and there was a man in a wheelchair, and he was sort of closed off. And I watched her reach her hand down and grab his hand, and they joined hands. And I felt the warmth of humanity. I felt the human spirit. And I see that all over this festival. I see so many people joined together, celebrating humanity. I see so much optimism. I see so much hope. I see so many young people ready to unleash their potential and push humanity forward. And then I thought back home, and I thought about all the people at home who can't afford to get an education, who ruined their lives with drugs because they live in a society that doesn't care for them. And I started to tear up because there's these two sides, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this is the difference between a collapsing society in the West and the rising society that is in the BRICS nation, in the new emerging economy today. So that brings me to my question here today, which is, do you see a world where the West could begin to join the new economy, could begin to join BRICS? And if so, what do you think that would look like?
Before today, everybody wanted to join Western structures, including Russia, that wanted to join the G7. And then we figured that no one cared for our interests then. This is the problem and the main mistake of our Western partners. And I tried to convey this idea when responding to the previous question by our American friend here. And you have mentioned, welfare and education matters. That is difficult, but they cannot afford to get proper education. It is not specific to the United States. It's a worldwide problem, and now lots of people from Latin America want to cross the US border illegally, and there are migrants, and everybody knows that. But this is universal across the globe. Many even rich nations have lots of problems, like the healthcare issues stand high on the European agenda. The United States has always tried to create the context, the most enabling context for top-ranking professionals, high-skilled professionals from across the world, and they offer better and higher salaries, and the Europeans migrated to the United States, therefore. But the world is not fully fair or just, and people with low incomes cannot receive a good education or medical assistance, and they can die on the threshold of a medical establishment if they don't have an insurance policy, which happened a lot. We know about these tragedies, but that does not mean that other countries in the world are fine and they have been able to strike the social balance properly. Our common goal is to provide a level playing field for everybody, equal conditions for all. But I'm convinced that if we are capable to establish a multipolar world where we all are interdependent and mutually reinforcing social matters and welfare matters, including healthcare and education, will be resolved easier and more efficiently. Because joining hands, we can attain more and do better. Thank you.
Well, yeah, Noah did a really good job with his question. It was really, really tremendous. And it was really, really amazing to be in that room with so many like revolutionary, anti-imperialist youth from all over the world. And it was a really amazing experience in so many, many ways. And then, the festival ended, there was a big like anti-imperialist like parade. I'll actually show you the very end of the festival.
But here comes the question. Are we growing up, developing equally? Unfortunately, no. There are no equal conditions in the world for everyone. And that is the main injustice of today's world. Is it possible to secure equal conditions for everyone to grow and develop? I don't know. But what I do know is that we should all strive for this. Even the very fact of striving to make the world more democratic, more stable, balanced, and safer.
Was it warm enough? Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely warm, and the hospitality is great. Seeing the enthusiasm of the volunteers, we're just so excited for the festival to begin, and they're high-fiving us all and welcoming us. There's a glowing optimism that comes from this event.
El acto de la juventud con Chávez desde Sochi y con Nicolás. Quiero también acompaña el señor embajador, el excelentísimo embajador de la República de Honduras. Me acompaña aquí Juan Ramón Elvir.
Revolucionario, saludo solidario y revolucionario. Dale esa. Fidel Castro, Lenin, Mao Mao, Ho Chi Minh, Fidel Castro, Lenin, Mao Mao, Ho Chi Minh, Fidel Castro, Lenin, Mao Mao, Ho Chi Minh, Fidel Castro, Lenin.
And I think this festival is a very noble tradition, and I'm really glad that...
Yeah, they were chanting Mao Mao, Ho Chi Minh, Fidel Castro, Lenin. That's what they were chanting. Mao Mao, Ho Chi Minh, Fidel Castro, Lenin. Was pretty cool in Spanish, but it gets better. It gets better.
Socialista, sin cura imperialista, América Latina va a ser toda socialista.
La esperanza es la retina, la esperanza es el calibre, y para que el alma vibre por encima de la piel, vivan Chávez y Fidel, viva Palestina libre.
Free, free Palestine! 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 Vive tu vida. Jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
When I come back, I'm going to tell them about all the wonderful memories, all the people we met, how much work clearly went into this huge festival and all the amazing things we saw. This is the future.
I would like everyone to stand up for the pledge.
But anyway, that was our experience at the World Youth Festival. And that was in March. That was February 29th to March 7th. And that was like an amazing experience at the World Youth Festival. Then after that, I was an observer, and CPI was an official observer of the Russian elections. And that was an interesting experience. Let me just, see if I can pull up just quickly. I'll show you some of my talk about the Russian election. Yeah, hold on. I went to inspect the polls with the other election observers. It was, of course, the United States wants to declare that Putin couldn't have been the real winner of the election. So they had us there to talk about it. So I went on a morning talk show to talk about it.
A special continued coverage here for the Russian election 2024. Rory Souchet, Rachel Rubel, and Caleb Moppin, our senior U.S. correspondent. If you're not in Washington, you're in New York. If you're not in New York, you're in Washington. You're always up and down the eastern seaboard, mate. Look, it's a predictable first question because you're the best one to ask it too. How is the Russian election result going down in D.C.?
Well, they're not thrilled, as you can imagine. In the lead up to this election, it was pretty clear they didn't want it to happen. They don't consider it legitimate. We actually heard the U.S. State Department go as far as saying that they would hold accountable those who observed it, like myself. I was an observer of the election. And it's pretty wild because the argument they have against the election really just comes down to the fact that the Russian president has been in office a long time. And I always remind people that in the United States, we have a very beloved president named Roosevelt. And he was elected in 1932 and 1936, elected again in 1940, and elected again in 1944. And why? Because one, he enacted a lot of economic reforms that really improved people's lives. And number two, he unified the country to defeat the Nazis and, stand with the Soviet Union and China against fascism. So he was widely loved. And, both of my grandparents on both sides, they were Republicans. But for them, Roosevelt was just the president. He was above politics. He was kind of a symbol of what had gotten them through the period of the Great Depression and the Second World War. And so if you look at that and you look at that history, we're not taught in the United States that Roosevelt was a dictator. No one considers him to be a dictator. It's just that he was a leader that stood and seized the moment and delivered and achieved great things and became kind of the symbol of national victory and national recovery. And I think that's a way we can look at this election when looking at it through an American lens. Of course, U.S. leaders don't want to put it that way.
Yeah, so I was an observer of the Russian election. So then when we got back to the United States, while I was in Russia, I was working on finishing our new textbook. And when we got back to the United States, as we were headed toward our retreat in Vermont, we published our new textbook, Out of the Movement to the Masses, which is a quite massive book. It's very, very big, goes over the history of communist groups in the United States and Out of the Movement to the Masses, Anti-Imperialist Organizing in America. I will put the link in the chat, but this was our new textbook and we published it, and it went over very well. I mean, people who've read it have been blown away because there's a lot in it, a lot of original content, like, source material, a lot of, history and stuff. And so we printed that new textbook for our retreat that we held, in Vermont. And I don't have time to, we had a lot of classes in Vermont, but the last night we had kind of like a talent show, where people got up. We always do that at our retreat gatherings. We're going to do that at our event coming up. And, people got together and, played their saxophone and sang. We did singing, and, there was a good 30 people at the event, and it was a lot of fun. It was a fun, sing along, evening. And, between the classes we had on Marxism and all of that, it was the whole group got together for 3 days in Vermont, and we had a great time at our retreat. And we distributed the new textbook, and we talked about communist history. We have the classes online. It was a great kind of moment for us to regroup after, having gone to the World Youth Festival, having, stood in solidarity with Yemen, having observed the Russian election. So then from there, our next event, that was April 26th to 29th, was our workshop in Vermont. Then after that, we went to the Libertarian Party convention, because the Libertarian Party has become very anti-war. And so we found out Donald Trump was going to be at the Libertarian Party convention, and that my friend Angela McCurdle, who's the head of the Libertarian Party, had agreed to get us credentials to get into the event with Trump at the Libertarian convention. So we printed a special booklet, Do You Believe in Growth? We printed a special booklet for the Libertarian Party convention, and we printed 1,000 copies of Do You Believe in Growth? Why Russia and China Keep Rising While U.S. Society Stifles Innovation. And we went to the Libertarian Party convention.
Without further ado, I would like to welcome to the stage the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
We just got to the Libertarian Party's national convention. Look at that. Look at that. Here at the Washington Hilton. What do you think, Peter? This is pretty swell.
So far, it's been pretty awesome. Met a lot of great libertarians. Trying to find a home here, seeing if there's a place in this party for me. If a guy like myself who's kind of like a libertarian socialist of sorts, who believes in central planning, that it could work in a year or two.
United States, Donald J. Trump.
If you post a meme they don't like, they want to throw you in jail if you do something that isn't quite to their liking. And I am proud to be the only president in 70 years who started no new wars. I took on the military-industrial complex. I broke the stranglehold on neocons and warmongers on the Republican Party. And instead of war, I made peace in the Middle East, something nobody thought was possible, and dealt with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, where a nuclear war was guaranteed to start in a very short period of time if Hillary Clinton became president. I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled, so we quit spending hundreds of billions of dollars to fight other people's wars, and so that we start immediately saving thousands and thousands of lives. And I am committed to restoring peace and restoring stability. And if you vote for me on day one, I will commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht to a sentence of time served.
Ross is a campaign to pardon Ross Ulbricht. Ross Ulbricht is serving, I believe, 2 consecutive life sentences for creating a website where people happen to sell drugs and guns and things like that. But frankly, given the way that Facebook is treated or anything like that, wouldn't Zuckerberg be in prison for the same damn thing? Anyway, the campaign to free Ross Ulbricht is about the fact that he created a website. What people chose to do with that website is their own business, and he should not have been in prison for it. FreeRoss.org, check it out.
Right, and economic growth is what it means to be human, right? We were hunter-gatherers in the woods, and now, just 8,000 years later, we've invented space travel and iPhones, and we've done amazing things. And we, at this point, the problem is not growth, as some people would say. The problem is that we have a system where abundance creates poverty.
Yeah.
Poverty is created by abundance. You know, people are homeless because there's too many houses. People are hungry because there's too much food. You know, self-driving cars should be a great thing. In a rational society, it'd be great if no one ever had to drive. That human labor was no longer necessary. But in our system, that would lead to mass unemployment, etc. This is not rational. We need to do what they've done in China and in Nicaragua and other countries, rationally organize the economy so that small businesses can flourish, so that working people can have economic security, so people can start their own enterprises, you know. I've heard a lot of libertarians who think China is good, who think Russia is good. Like, is that a common view?
Yes, it's like these are not our enemies. Maybe it's governments are the enemy and oppression is the enemy, and it is very much individuals unite.
What do you think of high-speed railway?
Oh, I love it. I love high-speed railway. I would love to ride a high-speed rail from LA to Las Vegas.
Very good. Yeah.
All right.
Be good for our economy, right?
Yeah. Amen.
Do you like fusion energy?
Yeah, I love it as well. I've dipped my hand in the cooling tower reactor of 3 Mile Island.
It's interesting because, you know, years ago I wrote an article really criticizing libertarians. And I said, how can libertarians like Russia and China so much when both those countries have a very state-run economy? And I got a very astute response from a libertarian. And they said, well, Caleb, you know, yes, Russia, their economy is centered around state-controlled oil and gas. China has 5-year plans and state-run industries. But you have to admit, both Russia and China have a way bigger middle class and way more small business owners than America does. And they treat their middle class and their small business owners way better than America does. And I thought that's actually a really good point. All right, so we're out of all the pamphlets we have. We got the last stack of them in the car. It's been going really, really well out there. A lot of sympathy. What did you guys hear?
Really great things, and people are very interested.
I thought people were really enthusiastic about this idea that growth is good, that we need to stop spending so much damn money fueling this forever war that rages all across the world.
The response to the leaflets and the pamphlets has been phenomenal. I have never talked to so many people who support Julian Assange, who want to end the wars. This is the place to be.
Yeah. Actually, that's one indication. That's one. They're pretty good. I mean, they're very interested. A lot of them like growth.
And then a lot of people that are libertarian, they see the government as a tool of the big monopolies to crush small business owners, right? And so I don't blame them for wanting to get the government off our backs, right? Unfortunately, I think that they're going to have to come to the conclusion that just kind of getting the government out is not going to cut it. They need a government that punches up, right? A government of action that will fight for working families. That's ultimately what they're going to need, and they're going to have to learn that through the course of seeing, you know, what's in store and as the crisis intensifies. But I think the road out of the crisis we're in right now is an anti-monopoly coalition.
And I think that a lot of leftists who believe in freedom of speech, freedom of press, and they're non-interventionists, they can find a home here in this party here. This is the third party, and this is the party of nuance, is at least what I say.
Angela, you know, I think that these are the people that are worthy of a certain level of...
So anyway, we distributed our booklets at the Libertarian Party convention. And that was on May 26th. We distributed 1,000 copies of Do You Believe in Growth at the event with Trump. We intervened. We were there, you know, at the event with this big gathering of people that are against the system and against the wars and against the police state, etc. So then I got a very special invitation, and it ended up on June 7th. I flew to Los Angeles. And not only did I get to meet Dan Niswander in the chat for the first time, but I got to speak at a church, you know, the Los Angeles Family Church. They flew me to Los Angeles to give a speech about peace with North Korea.
Pretty
Thank you all so much for making it out here. I'm glad to see that we're talking to our neighbors. We're not just sitting by ourselves. We're getting to know our tables. But yes, for anybody new here, yeah, welcome to the Los Angeles Family Church. Yeah, thank you. Together with Caleb Maupin from the Center of Political Innovation. So if you're with me, thank you for coming. The pastors for this house is Pastor Joshua just stepped out, but we have our co-pastor, Pastor Takayo, Pastor Joshua stepped out. Caleb Maupin up here in the front, you can maybe just give him a hand.
And so then we sang the peaceful reunification of Korea anthem, and then yeah, so that was really, really great. And so then I gave a presentation. And I'm just going to show you one, like kind of the climactic remark I made in my presentation, just because, you know, I talked about various different things. And I tried to get the audience there to hear the other side of the story when it came to North Korea.
Saw that there was a 10 or 11-year-old girl in North Korea. She went by Yumi, and she started a YouTube channel. And this YouTube channel, I learned about it from CNN, because CNN ran an article about how scandalous it was. North Korean propaganda YouTube channel started by a 10-year-old girl. And they ran this scandalous piece about it. Well, I watched the channel. You know, one of the videos is about her favorite popsicles, the popsicles she likes to eat. There's another video of her going fishing with her grandpa. There's another video of her going to the water park that she and her friends all like to go to. And CNN was like outraged. How dare YouTube allow this channel to exist? And they eventually took her YouTube channel down. And they took the YouTube channel down, and the reason that they gave for taking it down is they said that her YouTube channel had a, quote, positive bias toward North Korea. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, what was she supposed to do? Make a YouTube video about my country sucks? You know, I mean, it's like, this is ridiculous. And then some people say to me, well, Caleb, you know, they're trying to say that North Korea is a paradise. They're trying to say North Korea is a paradise. That's propaganda. No, they're not trying to say North Korea is a paradise. What she's saying is that if there's a war, we're people too. That's what they're saying. And she's saying it's not just a 24/7 military parade like we see in American television. Every time they show North Korea on TV, what do you see? I say countdown. They say North Korea, and then two to 3 seconds later, you see a bunch of guys marching around like this, right? We think North Korea is just a 24/7 military parade. But there's real fathers there, there's real daughters there, there's real mothers, there's brothers, there's sisters, there's children, there's families. And if there's a war, real people are going to die. And that's what her YouTube channel was trying to say, and we need messages like that on YouTube. Having young people from North Korea making YouTube videos about their life, and having them exchange and share with people from the United States, that's the road to peace. The road to peace is through trade. The road to peace is through development. This is not just true for the Korean Peninsula, it's true for the entire...
Yeah, and that was an amazing event. And I know there's people watching right now who were there, and they actually saw, you know, what that event was like. I mean, it was a unique event. Like, I mean, to have an event like that at a historic church like that, LA Family Church, I mean, that's the Unification Church, very conservative church from Korea, very anti-communist historically, but they want peace with North Korea. I'll show you at the end of the event, we actually watched a video about their founder, Reverend Sun Myung Moon, visiting North Korea. And I will show you that. Towards the end, we watched a video of Reverend Moon's trip to North Korea. Let me see if I can find that. Oh yeah, here it is. They put on the screen when Reverend Moon went to North Korea, what that was like. And so we actually watched like the video of how their founder went and forgave Reverend Moon because he was tortured as an anti-communist pastor. He was tortured in a North Korean prison, but yet he was able to go to North Korea and forgive Kim Il-sung as part of the process of reconciliation. So yeah, that was just a dynamic event and a dynamic trip to Los Angeles on June 7th. Now, in July, we were invited to Russia again. And so our member, Tom, he went to Russia for the next, World Youth Festival gathering. It was like the council of the World Youth Festival, the governing body that plans the World Youth Festival. I'm going to show you his video from
right. Can do this one's the groups,
and he represented us at the gathering. So I'm just going to show you his videos from the gathering of the World Youth Festival. This is Tom, our member from Detroit, who's an auto worker, describing what it was like and kind of showing video from when he was in Russia.
We're here at the opening of today's session here in this lovely room. People from all over the world are gathered here today, and I'm really excited. This is my first day here for the program, and I'm really excited to see what we get up to today. We're here in breakout groups. There's different boards for different topics. This one's the protection of the multipolar world order. We're in breakout groups, sort of brainstorming what we as global leaders of our respective countries through the World Youth Festival can do to advance the cause of a multipolar world. We're going into the Kremlin right now, inside the walls, to go watch Swan Lake inside the Kremlin, which is a pretty amazing opportunity, if you ask me.
Yes, that's our member, who was there at the World Youth Festival gathering. So then what happened later in July? That was at the beginning of July. Then at the end of July, Joe Biden finally announced he wasn't going to run for president again, right? Joe Biden announced he was dropping out of the race. And then the very next day, the book that I wrote about Kamala Harris and the Future of America, was banned from Amazon. I had written this book 4 years ago. It's a CPI book. It's got our logo there, right? Center for Political Innovation. Our book was banned from Amazon. Our book criticizing Kamala Harris was banned from Amazon. And there was a huge amount of outrage. And I ended up, going on Jimmy Dore and Kim Iverson's show to talk about it. It made a huge explosion. Here I am with Jimmy.
A special guest with us, Caleb Maupin, is a journalist and political analyst based in New York City. He has reported extensively from the Middle East and Latin America and has made frequent media appearances on RT and Press TV. He is also the founder and director for the Center for Political Innovation, as well as the author of this book right here, which is called Kamala Harris and the Future of America, an essay in 3 parts. Welcome to the show, Kamala. Caleb. So here's the story. Well, good to see you, buddy. How are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Okay, so the reason why we have you on today is because you wrote this book, and it was originally published in 2020, but guess what? It got censored. So when she was named the Democratic presumptive nominee, what happened? You tell people what happened.
I wrote this book 4 years ago in 2020, September of 2020. It was published. It created a little bit of a buzz. It was, I got reviews in British newspapers in India, gave some talks on it, spoke to some web conferences. Not a big deal. Sold a few hundred copies. It was just something I did. And it's been online ever since. It's been selling. And there you go. And so I figured, hey, with Kamala being named the presumptive nominee, might see a slight uptick in sales. Well, Monday at 7:26 p.m. local time, I get an email from Amazon. And it's interesting because, this is the book. And if anyone had it beforehand, it's a collector's item now because they said there was something with the cover that was not correct. And they said I had multiple options, one of which was to just change the cover. And so I thought, well, geez, I don't want to miss this moment. This is the moment where everyone's talking about Kamala. So I adjusted the cover, put a completely generic, bland cover, and re-uploaded to Amazon. Denied. Tried it again. Denied. Tried it again. Denied. They said the issue was the cover, which has been fine for the past 4 years. But now it's pretty clear this has been removed from Amazon. It is not allowed to be on Amazon.com, despite being on there for 4 years. And so it appears that my book is not permitted to be on the world's largest bookseller. This ultra monopoly has removed my book, and it just so happens to come the day that Kamala Harris is named as the presumptive nominee. And I think it looks like censorship to the world. It's got pretty good reviews.
So that's what it used to look like up on Amazon there. Got 4.5 stars. Look at that. So, but now if you go there, that's what it says.
Well, and that's the other thing. Usually, I have a number of books on Amazon. If you have a book up and there's some kind of snafu with it, generally what happens is that it remains on the page, but it says not available at this time, currently not available until you fix whatever the issue is. But this book has been scrubbed. It's like it never existed on Amazon.com. It's just completely gone. I'm blown away. So there you go. Now, that was a big deal when my book got banned, and it caused a huge amount of outrage, and the book then exploded. I went on Kim Iverson's show. I went on Jimmy Dore's show. I went on InfoWars. I was on a bunch of Republican podcasts, and I went everywhere to talk about my book being banned. So 7 days after they banned it, they restored it. And so I thought, we got to hit the moment. We got to seize the moment. And with this book being so much, I went on George Galloway, exactly. With this show being so much the center of attention, I've got to get this book to the DNC. So we had a team of volunteers, people that are in Chicago and people from around the country who went to Chicago to distribute the book to the DNC. And I just want to show a couple of the videos from our volunteer team, amazing CPI volunteer team in Chicago. Here's one video.
This is CPI in Chicago, and we are at the People's Army. Poor People's Army. That's right, People's Army is the Poor People's Army concert, and we're here for 2 reasons. Number one, to pass out the book exposing how dangerous Kamala Harris's foreign policy is, how she makes even Joe Biden look like a pacifist. And the other reason why we're here is to hear David Rovigs and Kamala Emanuel saying, and CPI and the Poor People's Army, we might not agree on everything, but there's one thing that we agree on, is if you're going to have an anti-war rally, you have to have these two perform. Right? They sing songs about Gaza, songs about Aaron Bushnell, songs about Hugh Thompson, songs about the Gaza flotilla, and songs about the Uhuru movement. So definitely, if you want to stop war, don't have a boring meeting, right? Have a meeting with music, and invite Dave and invite the good Kamala. This is the Kamala that's against locking people up. That's right. And they're great performers. This is going to be a great concert. It's part of the blitz that CPI is doing of all the events around the Democratic National Committee, getting the truth out about Kamala Harris. So join CPI, stop the wars, and do whatever you can to support David Rovix and Kamala Emanuel and their pro-peace music.
And be looking out for the video spread of people that we're doing out of the movement and to the masses with, who are receiving Kamala's book as a free book, that we're giving out during the DNC. So until we meet again next time.
Uhuru.
All right. And another video, again, we were at the protests, the Palestine rallies outside the DNC, and this is another person. We distributed 1,000 copies of the Kamala book and 1,000 copies of the growth booklet at the DNC.
Thanks, CPI and CPI viewers. Morning messages that we're getting it done. We got contacts. We passed out books. I just want to say that anything's possible. We made it through the protest cage. If it weren't for me and the Chicago innovators, this would have not happened. And I'm just grateful that I got to meet a lot of people and just knowing what the issues were and connecting with them in a human level, not just politics. I think that in order to thrive as an American and as a innovationist, I believe that we should be able to connect in a human level, not just politics. We're gonna make the Midwest happen. Hopefully we'll have enough people to get stuff started in Chicago. And we have the protests in the background. This is all distraction, we just wanna get people started into doing serious work like we have been doing. All of this is just a lot of distraction and a lot of people who need, spiritual wellness as well. It's not just about hate and wishing people ill will. I believe that for me personally, with the power of God, anything's possible. I hope we'll get this going, and I hope everybody could get motivated. I could motivate people into getting things started, and we did it. I think we passed out all the books, and I just have one more copy.
1,000.
1,000. Chicago members, and we did it, and we got names, and hoping to get more names, and we're gonna do it, and we're gonna win. So keep it going, keep the innovationist movement going. So shout out to everybody at CPI, and shout out to people who are interested. You won't regret if you become a member. So have a good one. Ciao.
Yeah, that's our member in Chicago, Gabby, right? Talking about what we were doing. So then what did we do? Well, the Uhuru trial started, and that is a really important trial. And so I took time off work and I got on a plane and so did John, our member in Chicago, and both of us went down to Florida to stand with the Uhuru movement, to be there on the first day of their trial and at the big rally before their trial that took place. So I'm going to show you some of what we did in Florida to support the Uhuru movement. I mean, again, really, really important stuff. Very, very important that we were down there supporting the Uhuru movement. Let me see if I can find the video here. Right. All right. Just want to find the video. Hold on. But yeah, we went down there and we were there on the first day of the Uhuru trial, and we were at the big rally the day beforehand, and we were official sponsors as CPI, because it was a really important place to be. It was the most important trial in the United States by far, and we didn't want to miss it. So we made a point of heading down there. So yeah, I'll have the video for you in a moment here. It's downloading, and we'll show you some of that. So we were down in Florida, and John spoke, and I spoke as well. And we were there supporting the Uhuru defendants. And we were there in the courtroom on the first day as well. So I want to show you, and I was blown away by how much the Uhuru organization appreciated our support, because we're a controversial group, right? We're not part of the woke left. We have a different approach to things, but they were so honored by our support, and so they appreciated so much what we have done for them, raising their case at the United Nations, raising their case with Russian President Putin. They love us. They absolutely love us. So yeah, I'm gonna here we go. It's the Uhuru House, and the rally here is in response to the fact that the People's Democratic Uhuru movement has been charged as being Russian agents. The trial begins Tuesday, September 3rd, and it is alleged that their activism in the black community is somehow acting as a foreign agent of Russia. It's a very dangerous case with very extreme implications for freedom of speech, freedom to protest, freedom to be anti-war here in the United States. It was a beautiful rally that was held. Here are some of the highlights of that demonstration.
Come on, put your hands together and stomp your feet. Come on and praise the Lord.
The home of Chairman O'Malley Shatella and Deputy. He said the only way we can get out of this is to presuppose that there was an accumulation of capital. Just a life sentence for Chairman O'Malley. What's at stake is a death sentence for humanity. Because imperialism has pushed us to the brink of a world-ending nuclear war between the United States and Russia. And what these demons are saying with this prosecution is that it's illegal to organize to try to stop that war, and it's illegal to even talk about it. That's right. Go ahead. And we got to talk about it. We got to organize against it because it's a threat to everybody. We're not here defending Chairman O'Malley. He's defending us, our children, everyone we've ever met, and anyone we ever will meet from a world-ending war, from imperialism, colonialism, and the final war that they are leading us to. So we have to do everything we can to help him win that fight. We got to do it like our life depends on it, because it does.
This is a case that's using law.
And not
and if they
The democratic rights that's associated with the First Amendment and the Bill of Rights. So.
Yeah, and so then that was the big rally the day beforehand, and then we went down to support them at the first day of their trial in federal court, and I was, along with Jill Stein, I was an official speaker at their press conference.
Next, I want to introduce Caleb Maupin. Caleb is here with the Center for Political Innovation. CPI has been an early and unwavering supporter of the Uhuru 3, taking this case out to the world and speaking out and building support in the most active way. So I want to introduce Caleb. Uhuru.
Speaking behalf on the Center for Political Innovation, I want to make clear, at risk of sounding like I'm using the language of a criminal prosecutor, about why we're really here today. We are here because of the failure, the consistent failure of the Democrat Party. In 2016, the Democrat Party nominated Hillary Clinton, an awful, unpopular candidate who didn't even bother to visit Wisconsin. And rather than take responsibility for their failure, they beat the drum of Russia, Russia, Russia for 4 years. And it all amounted to nothing. And here in the Tampa Bay area, St. Petersburg, Florida, and in St. Louis, Missouri, we have seen the failure of the Democrat Party, the failure to address the needs of the African people who live in these cities. And rather than address their failure and change their policy, and rather than take responsibility, they have decided to beat this drum of Russia, Russia, Russia once again. Rather than persecuting Chairman O'Malley, they should be studying what Chairman O'Malley has achieved. Rather than persecuting the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, they should be looking into what they have done to improve the lives of the people in these cities, studying these policies, and if they want to win, that's what they should be doing, not playing these silly games about Russia.
Yeah, so we were down there for the opening day of their trial. And, you know, their trial proceeded in federal court. And currently, we're, you know, at this moment, one of our members is on his way home from another World Youth Festival gathering in Russia. And you'll be hearing from him. He's going to come back and tell us all about what he saw. He was representing us at yet another World Youth Festival, connecting with young people from this new emerging global economy. And it looks like very soon we're going to be having an event around peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula here in New York City. And that's coming up. And we're also launching on Wednesday a very special anti-imperialist project. And I don't want to get into the specifics about what it is at this time, but all I can say is that you're going to be seeing a lot of this banner. Only peace can make America great again. You're going to be seeing that banner in a lot of places very, very soon. You know, and I'm really, really excited about that as well. So we are doing really, really great, amazing, important work. We really, really are. And I'm really, really proud of what we have done and what we continue to do. Because we are trying to build a real anti-imperialist movement. You know, where we, you know, when people are under attack, like the Uhuru movement, we support them. We go and stand with the countries that are under attack. We go out and raise awareness by distributing books about who Kamala Harris really is. We go out and we distribute literature about, you know, the new economy that's rising in the world. Do you believe in growth? You know, we stand with the Houthis, and I mean, we have done quite a lot this year so far. We still have got October, November, and December left in this year to summarize everything that we have done. But we do a lot. And this is what we do as an organization. We are constantly engaged in operations, right? It's operations. That's what we do. Distributing and having a day of solidarity with the Houthis in January, that was an operation. Going to the World Youth Festival and representing the United States, speaking with Putin and standing with the young people from the rising new economy around the world. That was an operation. Having our event in in Vermont, where we had our textbook and we had a 3-day gathering of CPI members from around the country in Vermont. That was an operation. Going to the Libertarian Party convention and distributing these pamphlets in bulk, that was an operation. The event in Los Angeles that we held, calling for peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula with Los Angeles Family Church, that was an operation. That was an operation as well. Distributing the Kamala Harris book, that we distributed 1,000 copies at the Democrat convention. There was 1,000 copies of the Kamala Harris book we distributed. That was an operation. And we're carrying out operations to educate the American people. That is what we are doing. We are carrying out real operations to actually teach people and actually get people to think and awaken people from their slumber. And we are carrying out operations, and standing with the Uhuru movement, right? That was an operation, and it made a world of difference to them that we stood with them and raised their case the way they did. I also want to mention, before I forget, yesterday there was a very important rally in Washington, D.C., and our organization, the Center for Political Innovation, we were official sponsors of the Rage Against the War Machine rally that was held in Washington, D.C. This is an official tweet where they tweeted out thanking us for being silver level sponsors. We were silver level in our donation that we gave. Appreciation to the Center for Political Innovation for supporting the Rage Against the War Machine. That is their official tweet thanking us for our support. And there they've got our logo, pro-humanity, pro-growth, silver level sponsorship. So we have done so much, right? Because we're trying to build an anti-imperialist movement. The name of this stream is What Does Anti-Imperialism Look Like? And by going over everything we've done so far this year, you will get a very clear idea of what anti-imperialism looks like. We are going out and raising awareness. We are going out and challenging people, teaching people things. We've exposed Kamala Harris with a book that went viral. We have gone to big conventions and rallies. We've traveled around the world. We're doing anti-imperialism, and we're building our organization. And, in October 12th, coming up October 12th in Chicago, we're going to have a gathering. And if you like the kind of work that we do, you should come to this gathering and figure out how you can join our organization, because we need more people to carry out our operations. It's very difficult to carry out our operations with just us. And we would like you to find your voice. If you feel like writing books, we'd like to help you write the books, right? If you feel like making videos, we'd like to help you make videos. If you feel like you can engage in these kinds of operations, we would like to help you figure out how you can engage in these kinds of operations. Our job is to empower you and help you to find your voice and your place. That is what we aim to do. Is to try and raise awareness. And so if you feel that you have a contribution to make, I would encourage you to join the Center for Political Innovation or come to our workshop and meet us and talk to us and see if we're the right group for you. That's what we exist to do. We exist to raise awareness. Now, we've been going for almost 2 hours now, but I don't see any super chats, folks, and I'm here to answer your super chat questions. So I really hope that you will come up with some super chats, because if not, the second half of the show is going to be very, very short. I'm not going to have very much to say because I don't see any super chat questions. So please send some super chat questions. That would be a very, very awesome thing for you to do. I think that if you were to send some super chats, that would make it much easier for me to figure out what I'm going to say in the second half of the show. I'm waiting to figure out what I'm going to say because the second half of the show is not here yet. And, I haven't gotten a single super chat yet. I've got a Rumble rant. I see I've got one Rumble rant. So I've got at least one thing to respond to. You know, you know, yeah, but yeah, please send some super chats so I have something to respond to in the second half of our program, because as of now, I have not received any super chats and I don't have anything to respond to. So I'm going to put some music on. I think I'm going to put on the music that David Rovix played at our convention last December. David Rovix is a musician. You saw him in the Chicago videos. He's a really good friend of ours. He's just a really amazing anti-imperialist, anti-war musician. And he's played at many CPI conferences. I've been a fan of his music for years. I never dreamed in a million years that we'd know each other. I assumed he was a famous person that I would never meet. But one day we reached out to him and said, "Hey, can you play at one of our conventions?" And he said, "Why, yes, I can." And ever since then, he's become a regular. So I'm going to play, this is 2 songs and commentary from David Rovix, but please send super chats. Please send a couple super chats for me to answer when I get back. Think of something for me to talk about when I get back. I'm going to put this on. Please send super chats.
We've heard from our next guest a couple of times at this point, but I have the absolute pleasure of introducing him again. I'm so excited to hear more from you, David. David Rovix, everybody.
Well, there's been a bunch of things said that I keep wanting to say something about, and Caleb put in the program that I was going to say a few remarks here, so I'm going to take the microphone and say some remarks. One thing that Caleb mentioned, which is, if I were actually an organizer of any decent kind, other than an organizer of concert tours, then I would be, doing something more than just putting up a section on my website about this. But I've been getting attacked for years, particularly since January 6, 2021, by elements of the I call them the anarcho-Puritans, but I'm not sure what to call them. But since having since having coined the phrase anarcho-Puritans, I've learned that the folks who are actually trying to destroy my life are generally actually members of an organization in Portland called Rose City Antifa. Yeah, and they really suck. And they do this to a lot of people, protesting like Medea Benjamin's book talks and this kind of thing, just really crazy stuff. And of course the whole orientation against free speech is not something they invented. It goes way back to the whole history of deplatforming, and the whole history is a history that has totally backfired wherever it has been tried, according to my historical analysis, which is, I'm sure, very in need of somebody else to tell me about some history that I've missed. But as far as my understanding of this tactic being used in Germany, England, the United States, and elsewhere where it has been practiced, it has tended to just completely backfire. And so on my website, there's davidrovix.com, there's a section called Principles, where I pretty much lay out the sort of 10 conclusions that I reached from being attacked like this for years, in terms of possible ways forward, which have a lot to do with a lot of things that people have been talking about already over the past few hours. But in terms of actually having real discourse and free speech, and in terms of actually not having our means of communication being controlled by a handful of corporations that are intent on censoring and through algorithm, especially any kind of possibility for real discourse to happen in the Western world, which is the situation that we're at right now. And I'm far from the first person to make this observation. I first heard Glenn Ford, Black Agenda Report, say exactly what I just said. That the corporations are now completely hegemonically have taken over our means of communication. I think that one of the most bright spots around that whole reality has been media from outside of the Western world, such as the media that Caleb works for, also Al Mayadeen and Al Jazeera and so many other platforms that often are coming from all kinds of different perspectives, often have a lot of disagreements with each other in terms of their the biases that they tend to promote. But what's so common around all of these platforms, as you've probably observed yourself in abundance, is that they come to get different conclusions from the Western media about most of the important issues, like Palestine and the war in Russia and Ukraine. And with that, I'll do a song about, I'll do two songs, one about Portland and one to introduce the next speaker. If the next speaker is talking about Assange, is that correct? Is that still the case?
Excellent. We're going to have John McCarthy.
Oh, okay. Then this may be relevant to the speaker after John. But. I wrote this song before the corporate social media platforms existed, which is evidence that there were problematic people ostensibly on the left before social media. I don't drive a car because they run on gas, but if I did, it would run on biomass. I ride a bike, or sometimes a skateboard, so fuck off all you drivers and your yucky horns, sitting all day in the traffic queues. I'm a better anarchist than you. I just live on moldy chives or the donuts that I found in last week's dumpster dives. Look at you people in that restaurant, I think you are so sad when you live and eating bagels like the ones that I just had. I think it is a shame all the bourgeois things you do. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't wear leather and I like my clothes in black, and I made a really cool hammock from a moldy coffee sack. I like to hop on freight trains, I think that is so cool. It's so much funner doing this than being stuck in school. I can't believe you're wearing those brand new Chinese shoes. I'm a better anarchist than you. I will have sex and there will be no sequel because heterosexual relationships are inherently flawed. Marching to anti-flag and crass until there are no differences in gender, race, or class. All you brainwashed readers, you just haven't got a clue. I'm a better anarchist than you. I am not a pacifist. I like throwing bricks, and when the cops have caught me and I'm taking a few licks, I always feel lucky if I get a bloody nose because I feel so militant and everybody knows. By the time the riot is all through, I'm a better anarchist than you. I only talk to those as pure as me. It's not safe if someone disagrees. They might have me thinking thoughts that I don't like. Pretty soon we'll all be praising the Third Reich. Yeah, I don't talk to fascists, and if you do, I'm a better anarchist than you. I'm a better anarchist than you. So, I'll just introduce this next song a little bit, and with a microphone. There's, I don't know how many other people are, have platforms where they're used to having audiences online. One thing I've noticed over time is that this is not common to everybody. We're not all broadcasters and podcasters. It's actually like only less than 5% of us or something. So, I mean, when the social media that is dominating our means of communication for so many of us around the world, and when their algorithms change, a lot of people don't notice, like things like It used to be that if you were promoting a tour and you had tens of thousands of followers on a platform, people would see your posts about it. That all changed a long time ago. But the way that it's changed, to the degree that it's changed in the past few months, is extremely dystopic and alarming and Orwellian and everything else. And the extreme is so intense. Like since the war in Gaza, the war on Gaza, everything I've posted, I've written like 6 songs, right? And on Twitter, they'll get tens of thousands of views, and on every other platform I posted combined, it's in the low hundreds. And that's, and this is not just happening with those songs, it's happening with everything that I post. And one of the more extreme examples, like nothing ever goes viral for me on Facebook or on YouTube anymore, but one of the more extreme examples of something going viral that a couple of folks here used on their broadcasts as well was just last week, I guess it was. I was in Oslo, and on the same night that Stella Assange was in Oslo to receive the Ossietzky Prize for Julian, and the Ossietzky, if you read a bit about that guy's history, it couldn't be a more appropriate prize for Julian Assange, who is in prison, of course, for blowing the whistle on U.S. war crimes, among other things. And then Stella, who is, along with her team, just absolutely spectacular organizers, and also just really savvy at using the media, social media. They did what used to work really well on a lot of platforms, a little bit of clickbait, Julian called while I was in the pub, and these musicians were playing, and then watch what happens next. Typical thing, right? So Julian Assange called her on her phone while she was sitting in the audience at the gig, and then we sang this song for Julian over the phone, which was beautiful, but it's also really good strategically in terms of getting people to click on a link, right? And it worked. Like on Twitter, I think it's been seen like 200,000 times now. On all the other platforms, hundreds of views in total. But this is a song I wrote so that Stella would have something to tell people who ask her, "How did you meet your husband?"
When Julian met Stella in the embassy, in the only room for 7 years that he would ever see, guarded by police with cops on every street, an unusual situation for the first time you should meet. When Julian met Stella, the time they spent was increasingly within the walls of a little tent, where they could have some privacy from the ever-present gaze under which he was spending all his nights and days. When Julian met Stella, there was the chance of grace. Perhaps the president would decide to drop the case. They had 2 children beneath the watchful eyes of the Americans and British and all kinds of other spies. When Julian met Stella on Embassy Row, it was before he was abducted and forced to go to Belmarsh prison without a chance to speak, awaiting the extradition that the USA seeks. When Julian met Stella, the folks at the UN and people all around the world spoke out then. This journalist belongs among the free, not in prison for exposing crimes against humanity. When Julian met Stella.
So much, David.
All right, everybody. That was a great performance from David Rovics. And so we've got a few super chats that have come in and a few Rumble rants. So right now we're going to do our roll call, names and locations. and then I will start answering questions. So who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Who's with us? Mark Jones in Utica, New York. Welcome, Mark Jones. Welcome. Good to have you with us. Yeah, good stuff. Is that you, Mark? Were you a wrestler at one point? I've always wondered. You come up and it's got that person with the wrestling helmet thing on. Is that you? Are you a former wrestler? Four Oaks, North Carolina, Donnie Wallace. Penny in Minnesota. Courtney in Northern Virginia. Hempcar Jacob in Wisconsin. Jenny in Cincinnati. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Names and locations. Names and locations. Mosen from Denver, Colorado. Rice from Adelaide, Australia. That's Michelle Rodriguez from the movie Girl Fight. Gotcha. Okay. Very good. I haven't seen that movie. I wondered. Colin in Greensboro. Welcome, Colin. Good to have you with us. Oh, but he did box and he has coached. All right. Very good. Very good. Fighting sports. Very popular in Russia. I know that much. Seasoned noob in China. Welcome. Welcome. Good to have you with us. Good to have you with us. Welcome, 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 welcome. John McCarthy in Chicago. Welcome. John. Auckland, New Zealand. Stefan in Denmark. Jack Dawkins in Pierce, Arizona. Anthony in Detroit. Bendigo, Australia. David Fox. Alex in Brazil. Very, very good. Very, very good. Patrick in Maine. Good to have you with us, Patrick. Names and locations. Master Jack in South Africa. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to have you with us. Good to have you with us. Mike in Washington. Good to have you with us. Good to have you with us. Mike. Anybody else? Names and locations. Names and locations. Names and locations. Anybody else? Anybody else? Names and locations. Names and locations. Dan in the LA area. Welcome, Dan. You do great morning messages. Dan's morning messages are always great, and he's done a lot of them. Keep doing them, Dan. We got to have one every day, so keep it up. You're doing great work. They're great, insightful messages. You've got a lot of fans in the Center for Political Innovation. All right, folks. So now I'm going to start answering people's questions. First, we have 3 Rumble rants that have come in, and then we have, at this point, we got 4 super chats, but please keep the super chats rolling in. That's what I'm here to do, is to answer your questions. Some of these are going to be quick answers, but some of them will probably be longer answers. So Hempcar says, here's another less bloody anti-imperialist flyer. What's the deadline for the Chicago event? I'm not sure I can make it. Well, Hempcar, all you have to do is register. Go and register. And for a while, people were having an issue with the registration because you had to have a Google account, but I fixed that. So if you want to come to the Chicago event, all you need to do is register. The link is down below, and we'll follow up with you on all of that. John Whitty is in Houston. So all you need to do is register so that we can give you the location and follow up with you. So if you would like to come to our event in Chicago, it's going to be a very, very awesome all-day workshop. All you need to do is go and fill out a registration form, give us your phone number and your email and your information, and we'll follow up with you. Gabby's been working hard on that already, and once it's closer to the event, we will send you the information. It's going to be a great event. I'm very, very excited about the event. It's going to be good. Peter Coffin is coming down, giving a great presentation on fandom. I'm very excited about that. In addition, we're going to be having a musician. Gabby is going to be there. Good food. I'm going to meet a lot of people, and it's going to be great. It's really going to be great. So please go ahead and register if you'd like to attend. And then Hempcar also was promoting an anti-imperialist leaflet that he put up on scribd.com. So that's on his Rumble rant, but I'll also just put it here in the chat. This is the leaflet that he was promoting, FSD flyer. I'll click on it and see what it says. Full spectrum dominance and the weaponization of space. Well, thank you very much for that, Jacob Hempcar. Oh, there's Gabby in Chicago. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So the next Rumble rant that we have is from YouTube is Trash. It says, for those who are skeptical, what is the best evidence that big tech is controlled by the intelligence agencies? Any book recommendations? Well, that's actually just Googleable, at this point. For example, in this book, in chapter 1, I talk a lot about the computer revolution. And I mean, if you want to look at the history of the Pentagon and the computer, revolution, it's all there. If you want to look at the history of NSA and the creation of Microsoft, it's all there. I quote, sources themselves, mainstream media articles about the role of intelligence agencies in creating the computer revolution. I quote it from the horse's mouth. In the section, where did the computer revolution come from? And I mean, it's just you can find it very, very blatantly stated by the tech companies themselves. That's the main source that I use. I mean, there's a lot of academics who have just, kind of written on it. I see Hempcar is recommending a book called Pentagon Brains by Annie Jacobson. I do not trust Annie Jacobson, right? She says a lot of things that I would contest, but, maybe that topic is a good one. But I mean, if you talk about Pentagon, the internet, I mean, it's all there. I mean, you read about DARPA and you read about all this stuff, and they brag about it. I mean, it's not a secret at all. It's not a secret at all where the computer revolution came from. They're quite proud of what they did. Al Gore bragged, I invented the internet. And there's all kinds of articles explaining Al Gore's role in the internet, and how he was not wrong when he said he invented the internet. And, there's a whole Wikipedia page, Al Gore and Information Technology, all about the role of, U.S. Senator Al Gore in helping the government to facilitate the creation of the modern internet. I mean, it's not concealed at all, right? So you don't need there to be some big, tell-all journalistic expose for this. This is something they're very, very proud of. That is my experience. The text that I always point to is the text basically calling for them to do it. Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was the main strategist during the Cold War, he wrote a book called The Technotronic Era, America, Between Two Ages, America Enters the Technotronic Era. And that book, you can read it on archive.org. And in that book, he basically talks about defeating communism, defeating the Soviet Union, and the role of control of information. He basically calls for it. And that's the book that I quote pretty extensively in Where is America Going? I quote his book calling for that. Brzezinski very, very blatantly called for utilizing technology, information technology, to defeat the Soviet Union, to engage in social manipulation. And more or less, he calls for the color revolutions in that book. He kind of predicts that. And talks about institutional Marxism, separating the left from what he calls institutional Marxism. There's a lot there. So there you go. Sorry, I'm dealing with fall allergies here, but it's making my voice a bit deeper, which I don't mind. So there you go. And I see Hempcar has posted a lot of links about this. Now, Penny is asking in a Rumble rant, can you give me some insight into the Holodomor famine in Ukraine? Yes, I can. That's an important topic, right? So after the Russian Revolution, Russia had been a largely agrarian country, and you had landowners, nobles who owned land, and you had peasants who lived on the land. And people starved all the time because, the landlords would take their grain, and they were still using horse-drawn plows. They didn't have tractors. They didn't have electrification. People starved all the time. There was malnutrition all the time among the Russian peasantry and the Russian countryside. So after the Russian Revolution, they got invaded by 15 different countries, and crops were burned, and it was an ugly civil war. And that civil war and famine, millions of people died in the aftermath of the Russian Revolution because they were fighting for their lives. It was a civil war, and they were blockaded. They couldn't get medicine. It was an awful time. After the Russian Civil War ended in 1921, Lenin implemented what he called the new economic policy. And the new economic policy was that they were going to back away from state control. During the time of the war, they'd had what they called military communism, where everything was controlled by the military because they were, fighting a war, for control of the country. So after the Civil War was over, they implemented what was called the new economic policy, which was allowing free enterprise and such. And during the new economic policy, they encouraged, what were called middle peasants or kulaks. And these were wealthier peasants who owned their, big tracts of land. They didn't just have one individual piece of land, but they had people who worked for them, right? They weren't nobles. They weren't the noble class. They'd all been, had their land redistributed, but they were what they called middle peasants or wealthier peasants who had their own piece of land, and they hired a bunch of different people to work on it, and they owned a very large tract of land. And after the Russian Revolution and after the Civil War, they needed to get the economy going again. So the middle peasants, or they called them kulaks, that was what they were called, which means fist in Russian, because they had a reputation for being mean guys who would, punch people in the face if they didn't work hard enough or whatever. The fists, the kulaks, the middle peasants, they encouraged them to, enrich themselves and grow their crops and all of that because they needed to get the economy going again. Well, those guys, those middle peasants, they were called, those kulaks, they were quite anti-communist. They were small business owners, small property owners, and they didn't treat the people who worked for them very nicely, and they tended to hoard what they had. And then, there was a famine in Ukraine. There was, natural disaster, and there was a famine. So the poor peasants started getting together and lynching the kulaks and killing them and seizing their grain. And, it was like civil war in the countryside because there was a shortage of food and it was a communist government. And these small farmer guys, they were hoarding it for themselves, and most of the people there weren't going to have it. And so you had the bulk of the population, murdering and killing kulaks. And it was chaos because there was a food shortage. And because of the fact that these kulaks had their private farms, people were killing them. And so the Communist Party and Stalin said, okay, we're going to do this. We're not going to have chaos in the countryside. So they sent the military into the countryside, and the military oversaw the creation of a collective farm system and the mechanization of agriculture, bringing in tractors so they could farm much more efficiently. But the process of bringing in the military and taking the private farming system and making a collective farming system, and the process of seizing the land of the kulaks and redistributing it and all of that was pretty ugly, as you can imagine, right? Because it was like civil war. But the thing was, it was already happening, and they needed to build a modern agricultural system. They needed a modern farming system. They didn't have it, right? They had this kind of outdated system, and the private ownership, and it was conflicting. And so in 1931, 32, you had a very ugly famine, but it wasn't just in Ukraine. It was all over the former Soviet Union. And, to call it a genocide is not accurate. It was, they were trying very rapidly to build a modern farming system with tractors, etc. And they were doing it in the middle of a famine. So there was a shortage, and, it was chaos, and it was violent, and a lot of people got killed, and it was awful. But that's not genocide, right? We know what Hitler did. Hitler rounded up people on the basis of their race, put them in trains, took them to places, and gassed them to death. No one's ever accused Stalin of doing anything remotely like that, right? What they say is that there was a bad agricultural policy that while they were rapidly building the collective farm system, while they were very rapidly transferring to a collective farm system, there was starvation and chaos. And that's true, but again, what were they supposed to do? Just let it stay the way it was? No, they had to bring in modern farming equipment and tractors. They had to create a more efficient farming system. They couldn't just have chaos in the countryside. So they were trying. The original plan was to gradually move toward a collective farm system. But then there was a big famine. And when there was a big famine, they didn't have the option of just waiting. And so they had to take a very dramatic move. But what frustrates me about the way people talk about that is, first of all, there were all kinds of famines before the Bolsheviks ever showed up. So I mean, there were all kinds of famines before. Is that the fault of capitalism? No, that's just normal. That just happens. But if it happens under communism, communism did it. That's the first thing. Second thing is, for the first time in Russia's history, the first time in the history of the Soviet Union, there were no famines. They built the modern farming system. They mechanized agriculture. They electrified the countryside. They developed the place. They're the ones that cured the famines. So how are you blaming them because this famine happened? They're therefore communism starves people? That's the most absurd claim. It's ridiculous, right? I mean, it's completely illogical. Something's there all the time, and the communists come in and they try to make it go away, and it doesn't work out so well, but then they keep trying, and then it goes away, and then that means that thing you were trying to get rid of was all the communists' fault the whole time. That doesn't make any sense, right? That is completely illogical. I've used the analogy before. If someone's a drug addict and they go to rehab, and then they get out of rehab and it doesn't work, and then they go back to rehab and it does work, does that mean rehab made them a drug addict? Is that what that means? Is that the logic that we're taking? That's the argument when they're saying communism causes starvation. No, communism cures starvation, but it's not magic. It doesn't cure it immediately. And sometimes the process of building a modern farming system and bringing tractors in and all of that can be a messy process, but it's certainly better than what was there before. And it tends to have good results in the long run. And these are countries, we have no idea the level of poverty these countries were in. China, Russia. I mean, before the communists came in, they were in such extreme levels of poverty. People were dying. And they came in, and the only chance these people had at having a modern country came from the communists. So I just, when people are like, oh, communism makes people poor, it's like, what in the hell are you talking about? Right? I mean, it's just infuriating to me. And it's very, very, were there bad policies that the Bolsheviks and the Soviet Union had that resulted in, they could have made the collective farm system more efficiently in a way that, sure. Yeah. And I'm sure if they could go back and do it again, they would do it in a much more effective way. But that's not the way history works. And what they achieved in terms of raising that country up, I mean, it was utterly amazing what they achieved. And the fact that they built a modern farming system and all of that. I mean, so this is just, the argument that they just don't, they just don't get it. They just don't get it. They really, really don't get it. They really, really don't get it. They really, really don't get it. So, yeah, I would happily talk to Candace Owens about it, and I wouldn't be mean about it. I would be polite about it. But she needs to hear this, right? And she's probably never heard this, right? And, but none of the woke people will defend Stalin, right? And I mean, what we're promoting here, which is, the anti-imperialist tradition is different than, it's not mainstream leftism, and it's certainly not right wing. We're promoting anti-imperialism, right? What we're promoting here is what they're doing in Iran, what they're doing in Cuba, what they're doing in Venezuela, what they're doing in China, what they're doing in Russia. We're promoting anti-imperialism and building up economies with central planning, right? We're promoting a rationally organized economy. We're promoting innovationism. And, that often doesn't get to speak for itself. We get toxic woke leftism and we get free market right-wing insanity, right? We need to be the voice of reason here and say that if you love your country and your community, you should want an economy that serves the people and serves public good, not the profits of a wealthy few. So thank you. That's a very good question, Penny, and I hope it was helpful. I hope you appreciated the answer that I just gave. I do apologize that I'm having the allergies, but it is that time of year, and I'm just doing the best I can. But anyway, so now I'm going to start doing super chats. I've got 5 super chats to answer. 5 of them. But if you got any more super chats, by all means, send them in, because the night is young and I've got plenty more strength in me, and my voice is very deep thanks to these allergies. Usually it makes me more nasally, but for some reason it's very deep tonight. So there we go. First one. Just curious, do you have any eschatological views about what's happening nowadays in West Asia with Russia, etc.? Thanks for all your work. Now, when you're talking about eschatological views, you're talking about the end times, right? Eschatological is relating to death, judgment, and the final destiny of mankind. Okay, now this is where it gets very interesting. I read that Alexander Dugin, and I've read a lot of what Alexander Dugin, the great Russian intellectual, has written. Don't agree with a lot of what he says, but I agree with a lot of what he says, but I don't agree with a lot of it also. It's kind of half and half. One of the things that he strongly talks about is he says that as a Russian Orthodox Christian, he rejects the notion of historical progress. He says that the world is constantly getting worse because the Antichrist is coming. But the world is also constantly getting better because Jesus is getting ready to return. And that really the world is getting better and worse at the same time. And there is no advancement and there is no regression. And that history is there is no, the past and the present and the future are equal. And there's no such thing as historical progress. I think he is absolutely wrong about that. I believe in historical progress. I do believe that historical progress often leads to the heightening of contradictions, and that there are battles that take place, right? And that a disagreement that might be mild as you're advancing, it might become a bigger and bigger disagreement. But I believe in historical progress. So I'm not of the view that we're going to have the end times. The world is just going to end. I am of the view that the contradictions are going to become more and more acute. And that the global anti-imperialist system and the global imperialist system are going to increasingly come into contradiction with each other, and that there will be more of an intense conflict between the two. But I do also think that there's a really big difference between now and the Cold War. And that is that during the Cold War, there was that Berlin Wall, and the Soviet Union and what they called Commie-Con, the communist economy of the world, was completely locked out of the West. Just completely locked out. And the West had their economy, and the communist countries had their economy. And that was it. It is not like that now. They're trying with the insane sanctions they put on Russia and all that. They would like that to be the case, but it's not like that. China's economy is very tied in with the American economy. Even Russia's economy, even after all the sanctions they put on Russia, Russia's economy is still tied in with the American economy. And that because we don't have isolated blocks, it's not as easy for these two countries, for these two blocks to just fight each other and kill each other. There's still trade going on between them. There's still economic interconnection. And that protects us in a way. And that is why I think that we should be the biggest advocates. If you want world peace, you should be an advocate of trade. You should be advocating that we do business with all these countries, and you should oppose sanctions. You have trade wars in the lead up to real wars. That's what many people have pointed out, right? Before the USA and Japan went to war, there was a whole bunch of ban on trade with Japan and et cetera. And then finally, you just went to war, and that we should be constantly advocating for trade with anti-imperialist countries, for integration of anti-imperialist countries with the global economy. And that the argument that U.S. leaders make about these sanctions, this government is violating human rights, therefore we've got to put sanctions on them. That's absurd, right? If you want to influence these countries, why should they listen to you if you don't trade with them? Right? If you're my business partner, I'm more likely to listen to you. But if you just completely cut me off, why should I listen to you? Right? And you don't have to be an anti-imperialist. This is the kind of argument you can make to somebody who is mainstream. Say to them, okay, you claim that Iran is this evil regime. I don't agree with you, but say you think that. You want to influence Iran to be better. Shouldn't we trade with Iran? And same for North Korea. Okay, you think North Korea is this evil regime. I don't think that. But let's say for the sake of argument, you're correct. Shouldn't we trade with North Korea? because then they're more likely to listen to us. The truth is that they don't want to trade with North Korea. They don't want to trade with Iran, and it's not about the fact that they, they're violating human rights. It's because they're competitors. The big ultra monopolies that run the United States see Iran and Venezuela and Cuba and North Korea as competitors. But, and this is where it gets tricky, we also have lower level capitalists who don't see it that way. Venezuela is a huge oil company, a huge oil country. So Wall Street oil companies are going to see Venezuela as a competitor, but there might be some dude who owns a solar panel company, and he doesn't see Venezuela as a competitor. And if Venezuela, Maduro wants to buy some solar panels from him, he's going to be for that. So our job is to go find the solar panel guy and be like, hey, man, you could be selling solar panels to Maduro and Venezuela, but Wall Street, they're writing the laws and they put all these crazy sanctions and you can't do it. Isn't that some bullshit? And he's going to say, yeah, I could be selling some solar panels to Venezuela and they won't let me. That's some bullshit. And we say, well, you ought to join the anti-monopoly coalition. You ought to join with the working class and the labor unions, and we should get together and have a government that kicks Jeff Bezos' ass and opens a line of trade so that you can sell as many solar panels to Venezuela as possible, and Venezuela can cooperate, and we'll break the power of the big oil companies so that you can sell solar panels to Venezuela, and we can use the oil money and the oil monopolies to rebuild American schools and jobs, and this is where the opening for us is, right? We have to see that the sanctions benefit the ultra monopolies, but they don't benefit the bulk of American business owners, right? I mean, if you're an American manufacturer and your job is to sell shit, sanctions that say, oh, you can't sell to this country, can't sell to that country, that doesn't help you. How does that help you, right? That's cutting off your consumers. Right? The lower levels of capital. That's why Trump is saying he wants to get rid of sanctions. Have you heard Trump's rhetoric? He's saying the dollar is losing its value. People aren't using the dollar around the world. I mean, Trump represents a lot of lower level capitalists who are like, why are we putting sanctions on the whole world? We're losing out. It's because the ultra rich want those sanctions because they want their monopoly, and they want to use their monopoly as a weapon to just squelch any country that can get in their way. But these lower level capitalists, they want to make money. During the 1980s, there were a lot of farmers that were very opposed to sanctions on the Soviet Union because they made money selling grain and selling wheat to the Soviet Union. And, a lot of the farm protests, the populist farm protests of the 80s, even though they were very far right and conservative, a lot of them wanted to do business with the Soviet Union because of the fact that they were farmers. That's how they could make money. Right. And small farmers, as the small farmers were being just crushed in the 1980s, a lot of them, were against, sanctions on the Soviet Union. So that's the way. That's one way we got to talk about this. But anyway, why are we talking about sanctions? Why are we talking about sanctions? But anyway, why we wouldn't have a nuclear war. So these countries are intertwined with each other, right? And that is an opening. And one thing that we need to do is we need to fight to get our economy and Russia's economy and China's economy and Iran's economy and Venezuela's economy as intertwined as possible, right? That needs to be what we fight for, okay? And we're not fighting for that because we're foreign agents of these countries. We're fighting for that because we're Americans, and it would benefit the real economy of America, the solar panel company, and it would benefit us, right? And it's just the ultra monopolies who are not loyal to this country, who are loyal to an open international system. They're the ones that would lose out. So, the best hope we have to avoid nuclear war is to promote trade, right? And I think that is a really, really key thing. Biden keeps taking us to the very edge of nuclear war and then hits the brakes at the last minute. Do you think Kamala knows how to hit the brakes? I don't think it's Biden who's doing that. I don't think Biden is all there, and I don't think he's the one making those decisions. I don't think Kamala is either. I think there's other people that are managing things, and that Joe Biden is senile and Kamala is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. She's not senile the way Joe is, but she's not all there and all of that. And I think that again, they're playing a game of chicken, but that also indicates to me that they anticipate being out of office soon. I think Trump is going to win. I will say it over and over again. I think that Donald Trump is going to win the upcoming election. I really do. I think he's going to win. I think he's going to win. But I hope it's not. I mean, if it's really close, they'll be able to steal it. I really worry, honestly. If Trump doesn't win, I don't know what's going to happen to the future of the country. We're going to be in bad shape. And Trump, there's plenty of problems with Trump too. I mean, it's not like Trump is, on Palestine, on a lot of things. Trump is bad, but I mean, he at least wants to lift sanctions. He at least wants to, Trump is, not awful. You know what I'm saying? On some issues, he seems to at least be self-interested enough to not let things just continue to deteriorate. Things in the economy right now are very bad. Things in global relations are very, very bad. I don't understand why people think that we need 4 more years of this. I really don't. And I get, oh, Trump is just so awful. You hate Donald Trump. Okay, fine. Right. Trump derangement syndrome. But like, are you happy with your life right now? Really? And you're going to go to the polls and you're going to vote for more of this? Like the last 4 years has just been tremendous, right? Oh yeah, the economy and oh yeah, right. Everything's going to global relations, the economy. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's right. We got the war in Gaza, all these people dying. We got the war in Ukraine on the edge of nuclear war. Living standards are going down, drugs, our neighborhood. I mean, look at the United States right now. You want 4 more years of this? Really? I mean, I want to shake people. You want 4 more years of this? Oh, well, Trump is blah, blah, blah. Okay. All right. I don't understand how anyone would want 4 more years of this. And I guess they just have to have Trump derangement syndrome. That's really the only way that it works. But it's infuriating to me. I mean, I don't understand how Trump derangement syndrome. This is really like, you want 4 more years of this. Seriously, you're looking at the situation in our country right now, and you're just like, 4 more years. That's what we need. All right. Oy, oy, oy. All right. Keep the super chats rolling in, folks. I'm here to answer your questions. How helpful do you think military cooperation with Russia will be to North Korea? If the Ukraine war ends, do you think their alliance will last? Oh, it's definitely going to last. North Korea has been isolated and cut off from the world, and Russia has taken a really, strong stance of being friendly to them. And Putin's visit to North Korea, his recent visit to North Korea, and the military cooperation, I think their alliance is going to last a lot longer now. And there's restaurants in Russia, North Korean restaurants. I mean, Russia and North Korea are closer than ever before. And I think that relationship will very much last, and that North Korea, they're good at making weapons. They are very good at making weapons. You can read about many revolutionary movements around the world got guns and weapons from North Korea. They have certain skills. They have certain very, very real skills. So I think that election, there we go. There we go. Now this next question, this next super chat, is an interesting one because I am hearing stuff. Okay. Stuff is trickling back to me, but honestly, I don't know how much of a big deal the media will make it. Okay. Stuff is getting back to me about, I don't even want to repeat. There's a couple scandals that I've heard about with Kamala that people have sent to me, and they're legit, but they're all things that I feel like mainstream media could just not care about. Okay. And I'm not going to say what they are because I'm waiting. You know what I'm saying? I'm not an investigative journalist and all of that. And honestly, it doesn't matter if I break these things, right? I mean, no one's gonna be like, oh, I saw it on Caleb's YouTube channel. It'll be, if the mainstream media really makes a big deal out of some of the things that are getting back to me that I'm hearing about, it could affect the election. I just don't think they will, to tell you the truth, unless things really shift behind closed doors. I think that, I'm hearing about a couple surprises. Look, Candace Owens did this whole thing about Kamala lying about her grandmother. I don't know if you heard about that. There's this woman that Kamala says is her grandmother. That ain't her grandmother. So there's that. There's there's other things too. And Kamala, she went on some international trips, and I'm hearing things. Okay, and things get back to me. People know that I'm a critic of Kamala Harris. That I wrote this book about Kamala Harris that was banned. So I hear things. Things get back to me. We'll see, right? We'll see. I'm hearing different things. Got different people telling me different things. And if these things that I'm hearing, if they're true, and if they are, and if the media decides to give them attention, they could be a really, really big deal. But honestly, some of these things I expect mainstream media will just shrug, and that's the scary thing about the world we live in. The tech monopolies. I mean, look, Hunter Biden's laptop, that should have been the October surprise that enabled Trump to win the 2020 election. But the FBI made sure that it didn't. Remember that? Like that's what happened. I mean, there was an October surprise. It was Hunter Biden's laptop, and the FBI was like, nope, nope. And they went to Facebook and they went to Twitter and they're like, nope, nope, you can't talk about this. It's absolutely unbelievable. The FBI rigged, basically intervened in the elections to prevent what should have been a completely legitimate October surprise and make it not a story. And they just blamed it on Russia when it was a true story and it had nothing to do with Russia. And they just, oh, nope, Russia. And now we know that Hunter Biden's laptop was real. It was, that was big tech collusion. And so, I mean, there could very well be a lot of October surprises that get suppressed in a similar way. But that said, it may be that discontent in the country is just to the point that they have to let Trump win. And that's my feeling, is that if they feel they can control Trump, they may let him in just to appease some certain people, right? Things in the country, will de-escalate to some degree if Trump gets in. People will calm down. They feel like people that are really angry right now, they'll feel like, oh, we've been heard. Trump gets in, and they just prevent Trump from really changing a lot of things. There you go. So we just have to see, right? I feel like there probably is a faction, a large percentage of people in the ruling class who may have been very opposed to Trump 4 years ago, who are like, okay, he can come back in under certain terms. There's probably sections of the FBI and the military that would be okay with a Trump presidency with certain, assurances. And there are some people in the ruling class that are just like, absolutely no, never. And then there is a section of the lower levels of capital, Betsy DeVos, Mike Lindell, people like that are, Elon Musk, who's quite powerful. He seems to be in the Trump camp pretty solidly. So we'll just have to see. Honestly, I mean, polls at this point are saying it could go either way. I think, though, that Kamala will lose if it's a straight up fair election, but it might be close enough that things go, things can be messed with. A lot of people look at things last time and they were messed with last time. I mean, the Native Voter Project, look at that, right? I did a story on that for RT, the Native Voter Project. That's completely illegal. And I mean, it was illegal, but you can't take people's votes away. But they had a project, a thing in Nevada if you were Native American and you voted, you would get into a raffle for like gift cards for like hundreds of dollars. That's not legal. You cannot give anyone a prize or a reward for voting. That is illegal. Okay. And you especially can't give a prize to somebody of a certain race for voting. Okay. You imagine if they had the White People Voter Project. If you're white and you vote, you get your name. That would be outlawed. They had the Black Voter Project. That would be illegal. You cannot pay anyone to vote in America. That's illegal. You especially cannot pay people of a certain race in order to vote. That is illegal. But they did that in Nevada, the Native Voter Project. And it was done by some Democrats. And I think somebody got in trouble. Someone had to pay a fine or something. But I mean, and you can't take those Native Americans' vote away and be like, oh, you got a prize. Now your vote doesn't count. You can't do that. But it was foul play. And it didn't completely throw the election. But Nevada was pretty close. And that made a difference. And these little things make a difference. But I'm telling you that Muslims are not going to vote for Kamala Harris. They're not, right? We got a Muslim mayor in Detroit, in Hamtramck, who is endorsing Donald Trump, right? I mean, he's not endorsing Jill Stein. The mayor of Hamtramck is endorsing Trump. He says, and I agree with him, Trump is more likely to do something better on Palestine. I don't think he's going to do much better, honestly. It doesn't sound like it, but he's more likely to than Kamala is. And that's saying something, right? Trump is more of a wild card than she is. Trump has more surprises up his sleeve than she does. Kamala is very blatant about what she's going to do. She cheered for the recent kill. I mean, and so did Trump, but Trump sometimes surprises you. Kamala does not surprise you at all. So I agree that, Trump is awful on the Palestine question, but there's a chance that he might be better just because he's Trump and he's unpredictable. So, I mean, the amount of play that Jill Stein is getting, the fact they're attacking Jill Stein and all this, I mean, it's interesting to me. It's interesting. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think there's plenty of potential October surprises, but media may not run with it. We will just have to see. So any more super chats that people have would be greatly appreciated. How did Western manufacturing moving to China affect their approach to central planning? How did capital boost their development? Well, you have to remember that, first they set up what they call free market zones, where they maintained kind of control over the enterprise, but they like facilitated it, right? That was a very important thing. And that, nowadays the main threat to Western manufacturing is not moving to some other country. It's automation, right? It's that technology is getting rid of jobs. But China bringing in foreign investment was very key. But the whole time they were setting up their own industries. Okay, they brought in Apple and foreign phone manufacturers, but they set up Huawei Technologies, which is now the world's largest telecommunications manufacturer. Yeah, maybe they brought in some other companies, but they now have the world's largest steel industry. They were always kind of using the foreign capital to bring wealth into their country and controlling it and regulating it. They always ran the show, right? They were never a vassal state for the imperialists. Never were they that, right? They were always running the show, but they needed to bring in foreign capital to help boost their economy, and they made it work for them. So there you go. I think it was quite strategic on their part. It's worked out very well, and they always were in control. And even the private enterprises in China aren't free to just do whatever they want, right? They all are like managed and directed by the Communist Party, told what to do. I actually, the Spartacists, right? They're a Trotskyite group, kind of an obscure, like one of the orthodox Trotskyist groups. But the Spartacists, they actually had a very good article in their magazine about why China is not capitalist. And they have published a lot of very, very good material on that topic. And I will link you the article. I subscribed to their magazine when I saw them. They're kind of like back in business. The group was out of commission for a while, but now they seem to have, come back into reality, and they're trots. But they're orthodox trots, and they maintain that China is a workers' state, that it's not a capitalist country. And so they have very, very good articles on that topic. I would recommend this article, Why China is Not Capitalist, the class nature of China, not imperialist and not capitalist. It's actually a very, very good piece that they put out about why China is not capitalist. So I would check that out. Yeah, there you go. I would look into that. I would check it out. So yeah, check it out. Look into it. I really enjoyed that. I think they have a YouTube video to accompany that article. That's pretty good as well. I think it's a good thing that they did. I don't know exactly what's going on with the group. I will say they were in Florida supporting the Uhuru movement. And they were nothing but principled and supportive. Usually when they would get up, they were, but they seem to have rebooted and they operate in a completely different manner. It's not the same group, but yes, I would love to go on Candace Owens' show. I think that, and honestly, a lot of the people in the conservative camp who are starting to question the pro-Israel policies and stuff, I think a lot of them are actually really good on the issues. They just are ideologically off. Right. And they're getting into, the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and stuff. But but they're really good on the issues. No war with Iran. A lot of them are sympathetic to Russia, even China. We need to be talking to those people. We need to find a way to talk to the Nick Fuentes crowd, the Candace Owens crowd, and we need to not just write them off, honestly. A lot of those people are really some of the best people. They're just being ideologically misdirected, and they're confused because they think the woke people are Marxists, and the woke people think that they're Marxists also, right? And so we need to find a way to talk to the Israel critical right wing, because a lot of those people, and they're not, again, some of them go in this, David Duke direction, but not all of them, right? Candace Owens is black, right? And it's complicated, and I feel like those are people that would listen because, they're people that they're realizing that the way that the media talks about Israel and Palestine is so wrong. They're open to hearing that what they've been told about a lot of things might be wrong. And so we need to engage with those people, even though they may espouse very reactionary ideas, and say things about communism or about, Jews in particular that we can't endorse. I feel like we could have productive conversations with such people. And I think that's, we ought to figure out how we can engage them. That's what I would really strongly like to recommend that we do. And it's not going to be easy, but we really ought to find a way to at least have some people in those spaces who hear us, and that's going to be a difficult thing to do. And that, we have a very nuanced understanding of the JQ, right? If you read my, the textbook, Out of the Movement to the Masses, in chapter 2, where we talk about Sam Marcy, we talk about the JQ because Sam Marcy, being Jewish, being, from a Jewish village in Ukraine, that was a big part of his identity. And we talk about the Jewish question, and we're not anti-Semites, but we also don't do what most of the left does and pretend there's nothing there. There's something there. Marx and Lenin both wrote essays about the Jewish question, right? They did, and, there's something there, you know what I mean? And, Marx, and others, there is, you had this ethnic group that was very much excluded from European society, assigned a specific role in the European feudal economy, and as a result, developed a specific identity. And that Marxism was always very opposed to that identity, right? That identity was seen as reactionary and a barrier to building a strong working class movement. And that Marx himself and Lenin both rejected any celebration of that identity. And they saw Zionism as an outgrowth. Lenin said Zionism was like the most explicit expression of that identity. But the Jewish Bund, which was a group of socialists who said, oh, Jews, we have to have a separate political party because we're just so different, he rejected that outright as well. That there is, we have to talk about, there is a group of people that have an ethnic loyalty that are infused with a kind of a weird form of racism, right? Most racism, racism is racism, but there's a kind of a weird racism that is part of, Zionist or, I don't know what you want to call it, this part of the spirit of the ghetto, right? It's kind of a weird form of racism that they're infused with. And because of that, it's something that we have to address. I see someone's asking how to become a member. Well, if you go to the join section of our website right now, we're not collecting dues because we're existing informally. We're not incorporated at this time. So to become a member, you just have to send an email to a certain address. And that email address is there. If you would like to become a member of CPI, go to that link, or I guess you can just send an email to CPI membership inquiry at gmail.com. That's the way to become, involved as a member, right? But right now we're existing informally, so that's the email address you reach out to. It's on the CPI website, and we have a new email system, and we're changing the way we operate. Good to have you. Good to have you. Good to have you. We always want to talk about these things in a nuanced way. I think that's the important thing, is that you don't want to talk about these things in a way where you have to talk about them in a way that is serious and has facts and that most of the left doesn't talk about the JQ at all. We talk about it in a way that we understand there's something here, but it's not, the protocols of the elders of Zion. It's not anti-Semitism. but there's something here and we can talk about it. Marx said there's something here, and Lenin said there's something here, and there's something here, but it's not, the end of the world. It's just, you know, it's just, yeah, there's something here. And I feel like that, in my experience, and if anyone has any more super chats, questions, please send them in. But in my experience, part of what happens is that when there's truth that won't get acknowledged, when there's like forbidden truth, that can lead people to look for that forbidden truth and just kind of lose their minds, right? That's a really common thing I see. Is there's something that's true that society just won't acknowledge, and so people see that, and then they get like stuck in that truth, and they kind of lose touch with reality, right? And that happens a lot. And my feeling is that if you don't acknowledge certain truths, right, a lot of people will just conform and also not acknowledge them. But then some people will see that you're not acknowledging that truth, and then they will just get stuck on that. And that's something we want to avoid. We want to acknowledge the forbidden truth, but we don't want to lose touch with reality at the same time. And I see a lot of that, especially in fringe circles. A lot of these groups, right? The LaRouche movement, they know a lot of things that mainstream society doesn't know. But on top of that, they've lost their minds on a lot of things too, right? I mean, they're paranoid that everyone's out to get them. And, I mean, they probably think I'm a British agent at this point. I mean, they're very, very, and it's like, there's people I know with the 9/11 thing, right? There's a lot about the official story of 9/11 that doesn't add up. And I don't think they're wrong about that. But then there's people that get lost in that. That becomes this rabbit hole that they lose their minds in. And you got to be careful, right? You want to acknowledge things that are true that society doesn't acknowledge, but you don't want to lose yourself in them, right? And that is always the danger, is when you lose yourself in a forbidden truth. That is the danger. And that's what I would advise people to to avoid doing, right? But anyway, it looks like there's no more super chats that are coming in. I'll be back tomorrow night. Bring questions tomorrow night. I guess I'll just say this. I called this stream, "What does anti-imperialism look like?" Because I want people to see what it means to build a real organization. Look, there's a lot of people. I get hateful emails from people all the time saying all kinds of crazy shit. And, how do I put this? When I get, hateful emails from people saying crazy shit, a lot of times they don't know what we do. Right? They don't understand that we do stuff. Look over what we did. Oh, we got another Rumble rant that's come in. No, I answered your Rumble rant about major war, drug war. Okay, hold on. A lot of times people just don't know what we do. We do a lot, right? I mean, there's people that have it in their minds that we're white nationalists or something. Who's done more for Uhuru than us, right? I mean, we have a lot of members who are not white, and we are not, we're not advocates of white separatism or anything like that. We wave the American flag because this is our country, right? And if you look at all that we've done for the Uhuru movement, right? There's some people who have it in their minds that we're supporters of American imperialism. We're standing with Russia. We're standing with the Houthis. We did a whole campaign to support the Houthis. If you really look at what we do, you'll understand what we're about, right? And there's these people who just they just don't get it. And I also want to say there's a lot of jealousy, and I'm really tired of that, right? There's just so many people who, they are jealous, right? And and they just get into this jealous state of mind where it's like, it's very hard to do anything. It really is. It is very hard to do anything. And I am all about giving other people opportunities and putting other people forward. But, I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing just because it makes somebody uncomfortable. And I just continue to deal with people that are just like, you doing stuff. It's like, I have a job to do. I'm sorry. I'm not going to stop doing my job because it makes you feel jealous. If I was stopping you, if I was suppressing you and your ability to do stuff, I totally would understand being outraged, because I've been the victim of that a lot. but that's not what I'm doing, right? I'm just doing what I would do, and I'm helping bring other people involved, and a lot of other people have been very key. I mean, all of you are here every night listening to me, and I appreciate all the support I've gotten, and I'm always trying to empower other people, but I'm not going to stop. And it's just like, what is the people's problem? Like, if you believe in the causes that I believe in, why would you want me to stop? Right? I really don't get that, right? If you honestly believe in everything that I believe, why would me doing what I do to promote these causes bother you? Well, I mean, it's just, there's so many people that are just very, very narcissistic. They really are. And, I hate to say it, but one of the first signs that someone's a narcissist is they accuse everyone else of being a narcissist. How dare anyone else ever assert their needs? How dare anyone else ever get any attention? They must be a narcissist because clearly I should be at the center of everything. So I don't know. I mean, I'm disappointed by a lot of people, and there just seems to be this endless ego thing going on where it's like, I am trying to get shit done. I'm trying to boost as many other people as possible, and I need more people to be more prominent. I need more people to speak. I need more people to write. I'm not holding anybody back. I just get very frustrated with the number of people who respond to me trying to build a movement and build, anti-imperialism, something they claim to believe in. They respond to it with jealousy. And it's just like they respond to it with, and it's like, if you want what I have, come work with me. I'll help you get it. Right. Come work with me. Like, I mean, if you want what I have, come work with me. But there's so many people that it's just like, well, I mean, it's really unfortunate. It's really, really unfortunate. If you want what I have, come work with me. And I don't get it. But anyway, so Penny sent a Rumble rant, said major drug war in Sonora now. How much you want to bet the USA is retaliating for Mexico passing the democratic judicial reform? I haven't followed that. The drug gangs, the drug cartels are very much tied in with imperialism. They are absolutely tied up with imperialism. And, that goes back to the Contra War. That goes back to the paramilitaries in Colombia. There's a lot of intelligence connections for the drug gangs. That is very, very well documented. And they don't like AMLO, and they don't like his successor. And AMLO has done a lot of good things despite, having a government that is, that is very, 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 infiltrated by the American deep state. And, AMLO has pulled off a lot. And I'm hopeful about his successor. We shall see. And I don't, AMLO's not in a position to lead some kind of revolution in Mexico. He's in a position to hold off imperialism to some degree. And so there you go. So he's AMLO gets my seal of approval. But I realize he's in a very tough circumstance, and there's, he's doing good things despite everything being against him almost. And you notice AMLO was more friendly to Trump than he was to Biden, and that he even questioned the 2020 election results. So, look at that, right? Look at that. So there you go. And so then Gabby asks, any way that Puerto Rico will break free from the U.S.? Puerto Rican independence, I feel like that was much more likely during the Cold War. Now, from what I understand, on the island of Puerto Rico, there's not a strong sentiment for it. Because, Puerto Rican independence was always tied in with kind of a leftist movement. And there is still somewhat of a leftist movement in Puerto Rico, but it's not what it was. But I could be wrong. When they had the electricity and the way Trump responded to it, the way Trump responded to the electrification, the lack of electricity in Puerto Rico last time was awful, right? And so it's complicated. I don't see it happening anytime soon. I don't see the Puerto Rican folks wanting to break away anytime soon. The Democrats would like to give them statehood because they'll be Democrats, and that would give more electoral votes and more Senate seats to Democrats. But I don't think that the Republicans would ever allow that. So I'm sorry. The fall allergies are messing with me here. You should play a speech of Albizu Campos one day. Okay. Yeah, I would look into that. He's the Puerto Rican national liberation fighter. you know, I have a lot of respect for the Puerto Rican independence movement, the Young Lords, and all that they accomplished. And yeah, maybe I can do that. Gabby, if you can help me find a speech by Albizu Campos that would be good for this stream, I would certainly be open to doing that. I haven't looked into him as much as I should. So yeah, that is something that I could do. All right. All right. So I'm gonna have to say goodnight for now, but I'll be back tomorrow night. Yeah. All right, folks. I will be back. I will be back. New upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.